Kan kalau kalian bilangnya kalau misalnya kita main ADV kita bisa ngajar supaya Mira nggak ngajar kita. Cuma kan Mira tuh ngajar kita bukan karena ADV tapi karena lo lihat playtime dia aja udah 2 hari terus-terusan nonstop main Umineko aja.
Bro is hooked. Bebas. I like novel. What do you like, Fulpo?
Bentar. Nah, kok mouse gue nyangkut di bokan ya.
Harusnya kemarin kamu ya, berarti sekarang aku.
Bebas beli.
Apanya?
Mau advance mode atau misalnya kamu?
Ya, aku sudah mengutarakan opiniku. Silakan.
Gimana kalau begitu?
Apa? I'm listening.
Kalau scene-nya interesting, kita pakai novel. Tapi kalau scene-nya is just two people flirting with each other, we are gonna use advance. Beatrice novel. Oke, kita pakai novel mode. Oh, kalau apa someone named George and Shannon
Basically kalau George sama Shannon kita pakai ADV. Discrimination, I tell you.
Their scene is so bad, man. Not gonna lie, man. I can it turned me off. I just want to get to the interesting. I just want to get the Beatrice part and the murder part or something.
Yeah, but every character matters, Paul. It's all how tightly wrapped the character involved with each other, you know. Kita dari lihat George sama Shannon kita bisa dapat si Jessica McCannon, dear.
Oh, we are going to use action mode on that too.
So any romance we use an advance mode. Is that what you're saying? Aduh. Gitu. Ding dong. Sudah mulai.
Wait,
Kak.
terakhir di mana? Kok?
Oh, coba aja. Pokoknya terakhir itu yang bahas penting itu ya sampai kanan Jessica itu.
Nah, ini kan isinya George sama Shannon lagi, so.
Ya. So kita ADV. Harusnya di kanan bawah saya tuh. Options. Ya. Toggle ADV. Udah.
Oh my god, this is so good tuh.
We're getting discrimination.
それってどういう意味ですか、ジョージさん。
Apa tuh kira-kira?
言葉通りの意味だよ。僕はまだ自分の城を築き上げてない。それができて初めて僕は一人前になれたと思えるんだ。その時君と結婚したい。
Wes.
それはその
Dia mau jadi Kenzo kedua anjing. Dia mau jadi Kenzo kedua anjing.
Makanya dia mau inheritance dulu biar bisa bikin castle-nya.
もう僕の心が許せないんだ。だから君に婚約指輪を贈りたい。
婚約で ですか。でも
ですか?
私、家具ですし。
そうだったね。じゃあ、
Maka dari itu kamu
人の
bisa
言うことを聞かないとね。
bener anjir. Maka dari itu kamu cuma bisa bilang
Aduh.
iya kan? This is why I hate
今
George.
君に送るのにふさわしい指輪を作らせてる。多分今度の親族会議の日には持っていけると思う。その時に送るから、どうか君の返事を聞かせてほしいんだ。君が僕の婚約を受けてくれたら、僕はその席でおじい様を含めた全ての親族の前で君との婚約を宣
Proklamasi
言する。
bos.
ジョージさん。
君と僕の仲を
え
ふさわしくないと咎める人たちはきっといる。でもそいつらの顔を見る必要はない。君はその瞳の中に僕だけを満たしていればいいから。
Boku dake.
君を
Imagine this scene in novel manga
Karena
ini. Imagine
siapa
this
sih?
in no.
それだけは
I would be narrating a lot
絶対に約束するか
antara
ら。
lain ini asli. Padahal harusnya yang narrating ini aku. There is no narration. We are just listening to their dialogues.
Nah, ini baru kita nyalain
どのように実るのか楽しみでならない。
What the fuck is this back sound?
canting.
熟れに過ぎて腐り落ちる果実の液に黄金の蝶たちは舞い降りる。今より収穫の日が待ち遠しい。宴の時はまだかまだか。
Weh. Saja bang Fred.
Ya beneran apa beneran chaotic evil ya apa lawful evil ya gue pikir Beatrice itu dia sama
Neutral.
netral but no.
You still think Beatrice is real? This is my question. Mira thinks Beatrice is real.
I don't want to believe Beatrice is real, but it's like there.
She's looking for real now. They had eaten breakfast at a coffee shop in the station building. By chance, the insides of the shop had been decorated with Halloween colors since it was October. Maria had seemed to be awfully pleased with that. For quite some time, she talked loudly inside the train about wanting to have a Halloween festival, without caring that she was attracting the attentions of others. Halloween is popular in Europe and America, but people aren't that familiar with it in Japan. The shopping district was colorfully decorated with orange pumpkins, but the costume parades of children demanding sweet and saying tricks or treat were nowhere in sight.
ハロウィン祭りがしたい。
Matsuri. I wanna look like a witch.
親族会議は遊びじゃないのよ。おじい様にお会いするんだから、ちゃんとしたお洋服じゃないとダメ。
While it wasn't completely full inside the train, it was really packed, with almost all the seats occupied by passengers. Maria was making a fuss amongst them, stomping her feet on the seat while Rosa scowled at her.
Bentar gue citan.
Tajam. We are back with Maria. We are so back, Plum. We are so back. Your favorite girl is in front of the screen right now. I hope in episode 2 we have a lot from Rosa. Episode 1 we don't have that much. She was kind of just, I'm failing as a mother, that's it. I wish to see the real side of parenting. Mira udah lewat kah bagian sini, Mir? Sudah dibalapkah kita? Well, don't say Flam. Come on. Yes, only smiley faces. I say I'm hoping. Of course. I might be biased towards Rosa. But I don't really dislike her in episode 1. She was okay. She has a flaw, you know. Udah tenang. Oh, insane speed. Yeah, she has her flaws and that's okay. We can accept that. Best mom emang, I wouldn't say best, but she is a mom. She's clearly one of the mom. One of the mom of all time, yes.
Saya kembali.
Tadaima. Rosa had warned her many times to lower her voice, but Maria hadn't obeyed her at all. Once Maria got like this, no matter how much she tried to explain the situation or calm her, she wouldn't listen. Before, Rosa used to pamper Maria and give in to her at times like this. But that had probably been a mistake. Surely Maria had gained a mistaken impression that throwing a tantrum long enough would make her mother give up and do what Maria said. Rosa had realized that error with the help of an educational book, and since then, she had hardened the part of her heart that wanted to pamper her beloved daughter. See? She loves her daughter so much. Her mutual understanding with Maria began to grow weaker and weaker, and she began to get discouraged by her own powerlessness more and more often.
Halloween! お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ
あなたにあげるお菓子はありません。さっき朝ごはんを食べたでしょ。
お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうお菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃう
A stout old woman who was sitting nearby as Maria stomped her feet picked a candy out of her handbag and held it out to Maria.
お菓子もらえたお菓子見て見てママハッピーハロウィーン
Happy
ほらマリア
Halloween!
勝手に人からお菓子をもらっちゃダメでしょ。
What?
返しなさい。
Ah.
いいんですよ。元気なお嬢さんですこと。
Genki na Ojo-san. Maybe there was no malice in the old woman's words. However, Rosa seemed to find that remark extremely
Emaknya
humiliating.
juga problematik ternyata. Aduh.
マリア、知らない人からお菓子をもらっちゃいけないっていつも言ってるでしょ。
おーこれはマリアがもらったのやだマリアの
話しなさい。ママの言うことを聞けっていつも言ってるでしょ。
マリアの
Emang tipikal sih, adek paling bawah tuh biasanya yang punya inferiority complex.
その言うのをやめなさいって言ってるでしょ。
It's the human nature. Wah, itu dia. I love it. Rosa reflexively hit Maria violently on her cheek. In a flash, Maria started to crying loudly. Rosa immediately took the candy from Maria's hand and pushed it back towards the dumbfounded old woman sitting next to them.
うちの子に勝手にお菓子を与えないでください。
ごめんなさい。
Breathing heavily, Rosa once again held the candy out to the old woman. After getting flustered about what she should say for a few moments, perhaps the old woman realized that her actions may have troubled this parent and child exactly. And she accepted the candy back, apologizing. After that, Rosa finally took notice of her surrounding. Her daughter's clothes were all messed up. She was crying and shouting with her nose dripping. And there were many dumbfounded passengers watching them.
You're the one who's causing the scene.
Except for the sound of the train running, and the interior was completely silent. Fortunately, that pitiful silence didn't last more than a short while. However, it was followed by an even more painful atmosphere as everyone began to whisper. Maria shouted, cried, kicked, and stomped her feet as usual, paying no heed to the people sitting around her. Impulsively, Rosa tried to slap her again. But she noticed the cold eyes of the people in the train and could not. When the train stopped, Rosa forcibly pulled Maria's arm and got off, almost dragging her daughter along. And Maria didn't stop crying. Rosa took her to the end of the platform and hit her cheek again. At the moment she was hit, Maria stopped crying for an instant. But before long, she shouted and cried even more than before. Overwhelmed with emotion, Rosa grabbed the nape of Maria's neck and dragged her, tugging at her hair. Yeah.
You know, satu, kalau misalnya lu berperhatian sama anak lu, apa tuh ya seenggaknya pas di sekolah lu samperin, lu cekin gitu, nggak cuman nunggu kabar dari sekolahnya kayak gimana gitu loh, apa cuman lu nggak dapet teman baru I don't know.
I don't know. Being a single mom is hard, you know? With those severe words, Rosa hits Maria cheek over and over again.
You are a fucking Usiromiya. You can ask for a fucking babysitter. You can pay a fucking babysitter. I know.
It was never implied that she had a babysitter.
Yeah.
And remember, Rosa is in huge debt. Remember?
But previously, he is not in huge debt, right? What the fuck?
We don't know when the debt was made, okay? We don't know when the debt was made. We don't even know.
Oh my god. Have you
It's
seen Kinzo?
1986.
I didn't say that Kinzo is a fucking better parents. I've said that I'm providing a solution for everyone.
The more Maria cried and shouted, the more Rosa hit her. And the more Maria was hit, the more intense she cried and shouted.
Real kah?
Wow.
Real kah?
Did bro laugh because Maria is like
I went to buy milk. Bye guys. Bye guys.
No way.
お客さんいかがされましたか？
何かご用ですか？
The one who timidly called to her was the station attendant. Rosa glared at the attendant with a look that said, "Don't butt into the problem of a mother and child, stranger." Of course, the attendant surely hadn't wanted to get involved either. However, Rosa had been yelling on the platform for much longer than she had imagined. Her emotional scolding had led the passengers on the platform to advise the attendant to call out to her. Rosa yelled at the attendant, saying not to worry anymore since they'd been getting on the next train. And then finally, or rather for the second time, she noticed the passenger on the platform staring at her from a distance. Rosa sweat slightly and felt a breeze make her sweat go cold, tormenting her. Maria still kept on crying, shielding her own head. Of course, if this beating continued, she'd probably keep crying indefinitely. As the terrible heat in Rosa's head faded, she knew she had surrendered her soul to evil again. Rosa fell to her knees and hugged Maria, whose face was all soggy with tears and mucus.
Emaknya bipolar kah? Emaknya personality disorder, MPD kah?
You see why? You see why everyone is just fucked up?
What? Oh my god, no!
It is! Yeah.
I am fucking done with this family. I am fucking done with this family.
Look, it has to come from somewhere, you know? It has to come from somewhere. Finally, Maria realized that her mother was her mother again. She clung to her mother's body and cried, burying her face in her mother's chest.
悪いママを許して。悪いママを許して。本当にごめんなさい。ママをどうか嫌いにならないで。
マリアは全然平気。ママを嫌いになんかならない。ママはまた悪い魔女に乗り移られていただけ。
Oh my god.
Possessed by the bad witch.
ママが帰ってきたから平気。
This is also really bad.
悪い魔女に。ママは
Why you say yes on that? No way.
Oh my god. At least, enggak, lebih ke nyari justifikasi buat anak kecil yang nggak ngerti apa-apa gitu. I don't know.
Bro, she is what? She's 6th grade. Maria is not 5. It is bad to let her know that everything that is evil is caused by some random ghost or witch, you know. Then she doesn't know what is right and what is wrong, because anything that doesn't go with her, it's just is the witch.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
That is wrong. For a long time, the two of them hugged each other, asking for and sharing words of forgiveness. After a while, they calmed down and both moved back at the same time. Maria's face and Rosa's face were both deep red after crying their eyes out.
マリアは
Really?
ハロウィンのお祭りがしたいの。
ジョージお兄ちゃんやジェシカお姉ちゃんにかぼちゃマシュマロ見せてあげたかった。
It was the candy that they have been selling at the cash register at the shop where they have eaten the breakfast. A fancy sweet that had been a big orange marshmallow in the shape of a jack-o'-lantern attached to the tip of a stick. How the fuck do you do that to a marshmallow? Maria had wanted it and had insistently pestered Rosa for it. Rosa had refused, saying that there was no way she could buy sweet right after breakfast.
じゃあマリア、この町に売っているかどうかわからないけど、降りて探してみようか。
ママ大好き。愛してる。ありがとう。
私もよ、マリア。愛してるわ。
The truth was that they didn't have the time to waste loitering around at the stopover station. If they missed the airplane, they'd have found half a day behind schedule. She should have left home with more time to spare, but she'd ended up leaving late after choosing Maria's clothes. Because of that, Rosa had been a bit impatient since the morning. She looked at the clock. They had to get on the next train immediately. But her daughter firmly joined hands with her to go by the suite with her mother, and that hand was warm. To Rosa, as she was now, it was more important to renew her bonds with Maria.
Imagine if this happens and they don't get into the train and they don't get to the island and they miss and they don't get to fucking die.
No, it's delayed, okay? If she didn't get the train right now, she's just delayed for half a day. To her, Maria was not only a beloved daughter, she was everything Rosa had. Also the reason Rosa had nothing else. Fortunately, they could see a big supermarket right in front of the station. They might not be able to find exactly the same suite, but Maria would probably be happy with anything that is a similar one. Besides, Rosa couldn't show up with a face swelled from crying. She must fix her makeup.
あれと全く同じマシュマロは見つからないかもしれないけど、似たようなお菓子があるといいね。それで、いとこのみんなを一緒に驚かそうね。
ママと一緒に買うお菓子なら何でもいい。
They exited through the turnstiles of the station in this unknown town. Maria walked across the pedestrian crossing together with her mother, chuckling to herself as though she was walking in an amusement park. Both faces were still deep red, but the two of them, mother and child, smiled warmly at each other without any restraint. Ini meme yang itu po, I wish that my husband returned back to home drunk, beat the shit out of me, and then apologize deeply.
あなた、
Hell yeah.
こんなところでどうされたのですか？
君か。なんでもない。
君
考え事をするのにここが少し心地よかっただけだ。
今日の準備はすべて手配が終わっています。あとはお茶でも飲みながらくつろいで待とうではありませんか。
すまん。君にいつも面倒なことをすべて押し付けている。
どうか私をもっと頼ってはいただけませんか。
Aduh, bentar.
私はあなたの妻です。
Aduh, oke, gua nggak expect kalau siapa sangka emaknya juga personality disorder. MPD coming out of the left field. Jadi kamu sukanya Rosa baik atau Rosa jahat? Oh. Atau harus satu kesatuan gitu pakai lengkap kan?
Sorry.
Ya santai.
"無論君にはいつも助けられているし、感謝もしている。だからこそ、私は私の仕事に専念できる。
分かっています。お仕事のこと。そして、お父様の遺産の話ですね。
君には関係のないことだ。欲深な兄弟たちの腐肉の漁り合いに過ぎん。
大丈夫です。あなた。すべてうまくいきます。あなたのお仕事がうまくいかなかったことはありません。
Natsuhi softly cuddled close to Krause's shoulder. She complimented Krause on his hard work, but Natsuhi knew better than anyone that his work wasn't going well. Krause's project was something like a seesaw, where a large amount of money swings. Big investment can lead to massive payoff. But like large seesaws, they tend to shake a lot, while moving very slowly instead of showing immediate result. At times, it's possible to make further investments so that the seesaw inclines faster towards the side you want. Of course, you'd only do that if you were confident that you'd be able to recover all your investments in the not-so-distant future. However, the seesaw Krause chose never turned out as he would have liked them to. His foresight wasn't wrong, but the time were moving sluggishly. They never managed to catch up with him. For example, think of a literal seesaw placed in the park. It's a really popular item, so there's always someone playing on it. And you've got to wait a long time for your turn. Let's say that one day, you spotted one of those seesaws that was completely unused, and you raced to grab it first. You raced to grab it first and have it all to yourself. However, unless someone got on the opposite side of the seesaw, you wouldn't be able to play on it. What if lots of time passed and nobody came to the opposite end?
Ada yang ngajak main.
Dia.
Kamu yang ngomongin aku di perusahaan.
Seesaws are popular, so if you wait long enough, a companion will surely show up. But Krause noticed something. The weather's getting worse, so nobody's coming outside to play. But seesaws are popular, so someone will surely come eventually. If he vacated his place because of the worsening weather, it would certainly be snatched away. And once again, he would end up longingly gazing from a distance at someone else having fun on the seesaw. On one side of the seesaw, he continued to wait patiently, all alone. That was Krause's project and his current situation.
私にもう少しの勇気と自分の先見性を信じる自信があれば、いつだって失敗はしなかった。
ええ、そうです。あなたの先見性はいつも間違っていません。あなただけがお父様の才覚を受け継いだのです。他の兄弟たちが誰も受け継がなかった天性のものを受け継がれた。
What is this glazing? What is this glazing?
Bro, she's your wife. I mean, he's your wife. Husband, you know. Of course, she would glaze.
なのに、私はそれを信じ
I
られず。
think a good partner is not blindly glazing like that, you know.
What do you mean blindly? His foresight is never wrong. It is true.
I mean, yeah, but
What everything that she said is true.
いつも臆病に自らの事業を畳んできた。
you know, ya udah bilangnya ya udah lu jangan jadi pengecut apa tuh deal sama proyek lu I don't know.
Iya kan dia bilang gitu. Ya, kan si Natsu bilang
Maksudnya
I'm sure this
Natsumi
one will go well.
Natsumi sekali-sekali harus tegasin gitu loh. Jangan cuman kayak lembut-lembut gitu loh. I don't know.
Doubters.
自分を信じられない男を誰が信じる？誰も信じない。私はいつも敗者の座るべき椅子に自ら座り、
The character.
親父にもおふくろにも兄弟たちにも笑われる。私はいつになったらこのコンプレックスから解放されるのだ。
Semuanya punya kompleks aja ya kan apa aja gini. What the fuck happened, man? What is this really, man?
いつにな
No,
っ
it
たら
has to be somewhere, bro. It has to come from somewhere. Look at their dad, bro.
Really?
Oh yeah, Natsuhi was the only one who knew. Only she knew of Krau's anguish. As the eldest son of the Ushiromiya family who would soon be forced to bear an immense responsibility, he couldn't open his pain heart to anyone. He was always getting compared to his father's great enterprises.
あなたが親族会議に専念できるよう全ての手配を済ませています。全て。
すまん。親父殿の件は問題ないかね。
はい。源氏と南條先生は私たちの味方です。
Ooh.
あの強欲な兄弟たちを決してお父様には合わせません。
Ooh.
Wait, what?
Remember, this is a different timeline from episode 1, but it's cool to know.
もしもし。はい、合田です。ええ、お任せください。
Your days are numbered, Goda. You will
年に一
soon
度のお仕
die.
事に腕が鳴っております。
In the kitchen, multicolored ingredients were gathered, and the preliminary arrangement were promptly being started. Even though it was still morning, the ingredients for dinner were already in saucepans and steaming. What? Why would you do that? Normally, he had to deal with several assorted matters, but on the day of the family conference, he could devote himself entirely to cooking. To Goda, who was originally a chef, this was surely the greatest gala occasion of the whole year.
ええ、ディナーには子牛のステーキを。素晴らしい肉がすでにホレイコで、今夜を待ちわびておりますよ。まかないも今夜はぜひ期待してください。
It was rare for Goda to be in this good of a mood towards his fellow servants. Goda bragged about being the Ushiromiya family's personal chef, and knowing he was considered worthy to display his excellent cooking at a family conference was his greatest honor.
わかった。任せるのでよろしく頼む。あと、熊沢がそちらにいないか。
熊沢さんですか。先ほど見かけましたが、こちらにはおりません。ゲストハウスの方へ準備に行かれたのではないでしょうか。
Sebenarnya Kumasawa ya sudah menyiapkan semua perangkap di rumah ini.
また油を売っているのか。いや、結構だ。では引き続きよろしく頼む。
ええ、万事この豪太にお任せを。
Genji placed the telephone back on the receiver, sighing slightly. Lightly, sorry.
Yang dibilang Genji and Dr. Bahkan Genji-nya sendiri loh.
Bahkan Genji. Which is different from episode 1. Genji sighed once again, thinking of Kumasawa, who was probably hiding again, even though things were this busy.
Masa voice actually
And,
ya.
and the ostentatious Goda who only felt like doing anything on a day when he couldn't show off.
失礼します。ゲストハウスの各お部屋の準備が整いました。
お嬢様より、お子様方が泊まれるよう、4人分の用意をするようにとのご指示を賜りましたが、いかがいたしましょう。
今年は6年ぶりにバトラ様がお見えになるそうだ。お嬢様もいとこ4人で夜更かしをされたいのだろう。準備するように奥様にはお伝えしなくてよい。
そうですね。かしこまりました。
今夜は深夜勤で、そのまま明日は早朝勤か。しんどい2日間になりそうだな。
そういえば、台風が直撃するって天気予報で言っていますね。大丈夫でしょうか。
台風がよほどそれない限り、場合によっては親族の皆様方のお帰りの船に響くだろう。親族会議の日程が月曜か火曜あたりまで長引くかもしれない。長丁場になるだろうが、皆くれぐれも粗相のないように頼む。シャノンは焦らぬよう落ち着いて、カノンは愛想よくご挨拶をするように。
注意します。
注意します。
大切なお客様がお越しになられる日だ。くれぐれも粗相がないように。
心得ています。いつだって、ここには大切なお客様しか訪れませんから。
What is that implication?
今日は本当の意味で大切なお客様を迎える。
Whoa, see, what is this implication?
Maksudnya.
心構えを改めるように。
はい。
シャノン、どうした？さっきから何かそわそわしているようだが、何か時間の約束でもあるのか？
いえ、なんでもありません。失礼いたしました。
姉さん、今日は大切なお客様がお越しになる日なんだよ。プライベートとは切り離すようにね。
プライベートなんか知りません。
As Shannon blushed just a bit, she turned her gaze away from the clock. Was it about the time for the airplane carrying the family to arrive at Nijima? She tried to hide the fact that her upcoming long-awaited reunion with George was making her heart race. But Ganon, who stood beside her, seemed to see right through her.
Shannon, これを黙って受け取ってくれ。
Inside the bathroom? Oh, inside the bathroom stall, George was practicing something over
Oh,
and
lu
over.
pikir dia propasnya dalam bed.
Taking out a small velvet box hidden in his pocket like a quick-draw desert gunman. Desert, not desert.
違うな。シャノンは牽引力のある男性が好きなんだ。もっと馬力がある感じじゃないとダメだ。
Horsepower.
シャノン、これを薬指につけるんだ。命令だよ。
Kinky.
ああ、左手とちゃんと言わないと右手にされちゃうかもしれない。いや、シャノンもそこまでかまととじゃないけど。ああ、でも少しは自由意志がないとなんだかその。
As he crossed his arms, muttering, someone knocked on the door. George was snapped back to reality.
お、ジョージ君、大丈夫か？
Even worse.
腹の調子でも悪いのか？
ルドルフおじさん。大丈夫です。平気です。ご心配は無用です。
そっか。ならいいんだけどな。無理して力みすぎるなよ。尻が切れちまうぜ。
Rudolph washed his hands, laughing cheerfully as he left. George, realizing that the most embarrassing part hadn't been overheard, relaxed and felt extremely relieved.
キリエ、ローザはまだ来ないのか？
まだよ。遅いわね。
天候調整中だからいいようなものを。これで普段通りのダイヤだったらあいつ乗り遅れちまうぜ。そしたらどうする気なんだあいつ。
ローザさんだっていい年の大人よ。なんとかするわ。兄って人はいくつになっても妹を子供扱いなのね。
親父だっていくつになっても子供だ
That
け
is
どな。
always again.
だと？俺が子供ならおめえは赤ん坊じゃねえか。ほれほれ、バトラちゃん、高い高い。
やめろ、くすぐってやめ。
親子ってより悪ガキ仲間って感じね。
When yeah.
When ya.
ほら、いらしたわよ。
おおお、餃子さんやないか。マリアちゃん、久しぶりやの。
久しぶり。
マリア、お久しぶりです。でしょ？言ってごらん。
おお。
そうや。よく言えたな。ご褒美に飴玉あげような。あれ？どこにしまったんや。
ローザさん、お久しぶりです。マリアちゃんもお久しぶり。ご無沙汰してます、キリエ姉さん、秀吉兄さん。あら、バトラ君？大きくなったわね。
Wow.
いやー今日は会うたびに言われてて恥ずかしいっすよ。
おう、ローザ、遅かったな。飛行機がダイヤ通りだったらギリギリってとこだったぜ。
ごめんなさい。列車の接続がうまくいかなくて。何？また天候調査中なの？
ぼやかないぼやかない。船で6時間も揺られるくらいなら飛行機でほんの30分の方がずっとマシよ。たとえ1時間余計に待たされたって全然早いんだから。
あれがマリアなのか。大きくなったな。成長期か。
前に会ったのは6年前？それは変わるわよ。女は心変わりがあればたった1日でも生まれ変わる生き物よ。
What?
What?
Maria, noticing a big man she didn't recognize mixed in among the relative, hid behind Rose's back and glared at Butler.
おいバトラ、挨拶しろい。前にやったのが3歳の時じゃ、初対面も同じだぞ。
3歳じゃ覚えてねえよな。よっ、マリア。久しぶり。大きくなったな。
マリア、バトラお兄ちゃんよ。ルドルフおじさんの息子さん。わかる？
おじさんの息子さんが、おじさんが息子さん。
She was obviously on guard. After all, it was hardly surprising that she'd be scared if a large guy like Butler suddenly started speaking frankly to her. Butler noticed that as well and thought of various ways he might approach her. Then he spotted the candy she had in her hand. It was the jack-o'-lantern sweet Rosa had bought for her.
I don't remember this happening in the episode.
Nggak ada, ya beda-beda.
10月だからハロウィンか。お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
Normally, trying to snatch a sweet away from a small child would result in them crying and screaming. The adult seems dubious about Battler's tactic, but Maria looked unexpectedly pleased, her face splitting into a wide grin.
ハロウィンほらママ、バトラもハロウィン知ってる。ほらほら。
こーら、バトラお兄ちゃんと呼びなさい。ごめんね、バトラ君。
いやいや、気にしないっすよ。俺はバトラと呼んでくれ。俺も、マリアって呼ぶからな。ほらマリア、ハロウィンだぞ。お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
From inside her purse, Maria picked out a jack-o'-lantern sweet, similar to the one she had in her hand, and presented it to Battler. When Battler accepted it, that seemed to be enough to confirm their friendship. The adults were amazed at how good children can be at getting along with each other. Maria had been throwing a tantrum because she wanted a Halloween festival. So, Butler, who knew about the trick-or-treating, must have felt like an ally. Her defensive posture from before was completely gone. Now she was all cheery, as though it had been friends for decades.
そうだな。日本じゃハロウィンってマイナーなイベントだよな。仮装行列で練り歩くなんて。向こうのニュースではよく見るけど、日本じゃ見たことないぜ。
マリアも仮装したかった。仮装していとこみんなでお菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞってやりたかった。
そっかそっか。今度俺と一緒にやろうな。マリアだったら何の仮装をして練り歩きたい？
魔女！
ベアトリーチェ！
Terus nanti pas Halloween, si Marianya dress up as a witch, tapi yang datang beneran witchnya.
おや、お嬢様、こんなところに。奥様が探しておいででしたよ。
探されたくねえからこんなところにいるんだぜ。どうせ、みなりは大丈夫かとか、言葉遣いをちゃんとするようにとか、お小言が言いたいだけに違いないぜ。
違いありません。
私はさ、なぜか親族会議の日になると、この魔女様が気になるんだよ。
ほう。それはまたどうしてでございましょう？
親族会議ってのは、じい様に連なる全ての一族老頭が集まる日だ。今年は6年ぶりにバトラも来るそうじゃねえか。そんな感じでさ、何十年かぶりに、今までずっと姿を現さなかった親族が、ひょっこりと現れるんじゃないかって。
ほほう、そんな親族がおりますでしょうか？
ベアトリーチェ様だよ。素性は誰も知らない。あるいは、大昔のじい様の愛人なのか、その子孫がひょっこりと現れて、授けた黄金を返せなんて言い出すかもしれないぜ。
クラウス様たちは、親方様の遺産問題で、今年も議論されるでしょうから、こうも魔女の黄金の話で盛り上がっては、黄金を与えた魔女本人が、そろそろおいでになってもおかしくありませんね。
熊沢さんはさ、辞めたり勤めたりと忙しいけど、源氏さん並みに昔からここに出入りしてるわけでしょ？ ベアトリーチェのこともっと知ってるんじゃないの？
さて思い出そうにもこの老いぼれ、今朝の朝食すらも思い出せませんので。
熊沢さんはいっつもそういう言い方で逃げるけど、何か知ってそうなんだよな。知ってて物陰で笑ってるみたいな陰湿な雰囲気が時々するぜ。
これは手厳しい。隠し事など何もしておりません。私から申し上げられることは、ベアトリーチェ様は黄金の魔女であられて、この島の夜を支配されているもう一人の主人であられるということだけでございます。
じいさまの受け売りかよ。給料もらってるとはいえ、じいさまの妄言に付き合うのも大変だな。
ただこれだけは申し上げられます。
langsung lock in anjing.
何？
六軒島は太古の昔、小豆島と呼ばれて恐れられてきました。小豆は悪時期がなまったものと言われ、本当は悪時期島と呼ばれていたのだと漁民たちの間では伝えられておりました。
前にも聞いたよ。この辺は暗礁が多くて海難事故が多かったから、領民たちが恐れてむやみに近づかなかったって話だろ。
悪時期島には悪霊が住み着いていて、太古の昔から人々の魂を喰らい続けてきました。この島に関わり命を奪われた人間はあまりにも多いのです。
それを旅の修験者だかなんだかが例の社を作って鎮魂したんで収まったってんじゃなかったっけ？うさんくせえ話だぜ。
その鎮魂の社はこの夏、暗き闇を引き裂く紫色の不気味な雷で打ち砕かれたとか。
熊沢さんその話好きだな。確かに鎮魂の社が落雷でなくなっちまうなんて不気味だが、まあもともとオンボロだったしな。ちょっと高い波にでもさらわれたんじゃねえのかな。
Ketawa dulu gak sih?
眠りから目覚めた悪時期島の悪霊がベアトリーチェ様を呼び寄せたのです。もしベアトリーチェ様が親族会議に訪れられるようなことがあったなら。
あったなら？
Kumasawa fell silent for a moment. Jessica was pressing her to keep going, so that gap felt strange and eerie. When Kumasawa noticed that she had Jessica plenty scared with her silence, she grinned broadly.
はてさて、どんなことになるやら。
へえ、そいつは素敵じゃないかよ。
たまには優雅な時間を得て、あなたの心を豊かにするのもあなたの仕事に役に立つんじゃないかしら。
だな。心と財布は豊かじゃなきゃいけねえ。わかったよ。その日は開けておくことにする。予約を頼むぜ。
わかったわ。絶対よ。
ああ、よろしく頼む。愛してるぜ、キリエ。
Enggak jawab aja. Oh, what? I didn't know you were that kind of romantic, but okay. After kissing the receiver, Rudolph hung up. Before his seats, there were several executives with their sleeves rolled up, eagerly awaiting the end of that phone call.
Apa?
すまん、待たせたぜ。アメリカから連
Disenyum
絡が
dulu
来て
dia anjir.
はい。外線にデイル渡辺弁護士からです。
Dale Watanabe.
結局のところ、感触はどうなんだ？
それが一つ芳しくないようでして。先方は裁判をも辞さないつもりのようです。
やっぱりごまかしきれねえかな。繋いでくれ。
わかりました。すぐに。
The executive ordered that the external line to be transferred to the secretarial office. At once, the phone in front of Rudolph rang.
もしもし。ハローハロー。お待たせしました。後宮です。どうもどうも。いかがですか、そちらは。Hello, President 後宮。
プレシデント後宮。
本題に入りましょう。いいニュースと悪いニュースがありますが、どちらを先にしますか？悪いニュースが先がいいな。デザートがないと頑張れないたちなんだ。わかりました。悪いニュースは先方が東方を告発する準備に入ったということです。つい先日類似した裁判で原告が圧勝する判決が出されました。被告側も当方が主張するのとほぼ同じ内容で論戦していたのですが、全てにおいて却下されました。残念ながらこのまま法廷に臨めば当方の主張はことごとく却下される可能性が極めて高いでしょう。例の裁判全滅だったか。
Kayak nggak pernah dijelasin deh, cuman dibilangnya kena lawsuit, basically.
Cuma kena lawsuit aja ya.
うちより有利な条件だったと思ってたんだが、そりゃ辛いな。で、いいニュースは？先方の幹部と接触できました。先方に当方の立ち位置を説明し、先方のブランドイメージを侵害する意図がないことを説明し、理解を得ることができました。先方は近日中に条件提示を行い、それらの履行が行われるなら告発を見送ると約束しました。感触は？取締役会のナンバー2による発言です。正直、非常に厳しいものになると予想されます。当方の想定では避けられないものとして社名変更、ブランド名変更。
Ganti nama. What the fuck did you do sampai kamu harus ganti nama company dan brandnya?
Itu apa? Mereka kayaknya nggunain nama perusahaan lain gitu yang udah ada gitu Pak. Kalau lihat dari sini.
Oh, fake ini ya.
Nggak tahu fake atau unintentional apa unintentional gunain nama yang sama.
Aduh, nama kita mah sama gitu ya.
Iya.
交渉の余地のあるものとして若い金額、大手新聞への謝罪広告掲載、それらの履行期間と見ています。うちに潰れろと一言言やいいのに、周りくどい奴らだぜ。先方は近年2代目社長に交代したばかりで、まだ足固めが終わっていません。当方が徹底抗戦した場合、現社長に失点を与えたい勢力が何らかの利的工作をしかねないと懸念しています。そのため先方トップも本件を速やかに解決したいという思惑があるようです。そのため迅速な和解のために多少の条件緩和を引き出せる余地も残っているかもしれません。いずれにせよとんでもねえ金が必要になるか。その覚悟は必要です。そしてそれでも懲罰的賠償金よりははるかに安いかと。ありがとう先生。また進展があったら連絡してください。先生は高級鳥だからヨタ話もできねえ。サンキューサンキュー。グッバイ。
Rudolph hung up the phone. The executive sittings in reception seats seemed to have guessed at the content of the discussion.
聞こえたか野郎ども。まあそうじるとだ。金さえ積みや堪忍してやるぜってわけだ。あとは金の高だけを争点にすりゃいい。
しかし社長、渡辺氏の示した和解金の想定額はあまりにも膨大です。それだけの余裕はありません。
こんなことになるって分かってたら高くかなんて始めんじゃなかったぜ。
3年しのげれば資金的危機は脱出できる計算でした。
Bro sudah mau bail out 3 tahun ya.
本当についてない。
ホップステップジャンプのステップでこけちまったんだもんな。泣けるぜ。
メインバンクから金を引っ張るしかありません。
銀行はまずいな。連中は勝ち馬にしか金を出さん。景気は上向いてるが、銀行に弱みは見せられねえ。
社長、母外に資金はありますか？我々の把握していない資金です。
よせやい。俺がそういう男に見えるかよ。俺の財布の中身は全てお前らにさらしてるぜ。そこにある帳簿が我が社の全てだ。
なら金策が必要です。数百万ドル単位を引っ張れるスポンサーが大至急必要です。
社長の交友関係で何とかなりませんでしょうか。
社長
ああ、落ち着けてめえら。金策は俺が何とかする。お前らはガタガタせずに業務を維持しろ。金さえ積めば向こうは許すと言ってるんだ。すでに俺たちはアジアに太いパイプを持ってる。いろいろ響くだろうが取引は維持できる。要は金さえ積めりゃ全て解決できる問題なんだ。見てろ、俺が全て解決する。お前らを路頭に迷わせなんかしねえぞ。大船に乗った気でいろい。無事に解決したらお前ら全員をシャンパンタワーでねぎらってやるぜ。約束する。だから黙って俺についてこい。いいな。
The airplane suddenly shook, probably due to turbulence. Rudolphus jostled awake. He'd woken early that morning and ended up drifting off to sleep while resting in his seat. It's on 1 hour plane, bro.
まだだいぶ眠いんじゃないの？このところだいぶ仕事が忙しかったようだし。
仕事が忙しいなんて大いに結構じゃねえか。俺が暇になっちまったら俺たち明日から路頭に迷うぜ。
そうね。バトラ君も帰ってきたんだから2人で物乞いすればいいって問題じゃないわよ。
そうだな。6年ぶりに家族が揃ったんだからな。家族水入らずで過ごせるよう課長が頑張らねえとな。
When he looked out a window, he saw that the airplane had already started to drop in the altitude considerably. The fishing boats, which had only looked like black grains a short while ago, were starting to become clearly recognizable.
親父に土下座してげんこつ一発で1000万借りられるなら1ダースくらいもらってきてえところなんだがな。
Enak banget anjing.
さもなきゃ
Aku juga mau.
とっととお隠れになってくれりゃいいんだが。
Wah.
散々すねをかじって今度は遺産目当てか。俺は地獄行きだな。そりゃこんな俺に親父も会いたくはないだろうよ。
Kan lu sadar diri dia. There's some value to it, you know?
Agak.
まさか今年も親族会議にお出にならないつもりですかな。
Nanjo looked at Kinzo's face, sighing. Kinzo's eyes remained rooted to a strange book on magic.
ハゲタカどもの議論に加わるつもりはない。好きに我が骨のしゃぶり方でも議論するがよかろう。実にくだらぬ。
やれやれ、困ったものですな。
Nanjo shook his head slightly. To him, children and grandchildren were lovely things. He believed watching them grow was the only way to truly enjoy old age. So Kinzo's words were very saddening to Nanjo.
この部屋を出るべき時が来れば私は姿を現す。あれが姿を未だ現さぬようにな。
When Kinzo raised his face again, his gaze pointed at the portrait of the witch, which was respectfully displayed on the wall. Kinzo's mind didn't dwell for a moment on the fact that today was the family conference where all of his beloved relatives would gather. It was filled only by the face of the witch in the oil painting, who never smiled except inside the portrait. Everybody knew that interrupting Kinzo when he talked about Beatrice would trigger his wrath.
私は今日ある儀式を執り行う。
それは何ですかな？
儀式というよりは博打に近い。なぜならリスクを負わぬ魔法に奇跡は宿らぬからだ。
Nanjo had heard Kinzo say this many times before. You might even call it a pet phrase of Kinzo's. Kinzo apparently believed that magic and miracles could occur if you gambled your own fate with a certain amount of risk and triumphed.
かつて黄金のギャンブラーと言われた金蔵さんが、いつお迎えが来てもおかしくないそのご老体で、一体どんな博打に挑みますやら。これは見ものですな。
Tuh, pelannya bilang apa ya? What?
Oh ya tadi kayaknya gara-gara sempet ke post terus di VR nyala, gue masih nonton sampai dulu tahu soal si Oh dia maksudnya dia nonton replaynya tapi nggak actual typingnya gitu.
研究を尽くした秘術の儀式も魔法にたけぬお前にかかれば博打呼ばわりか。
Kamu yang nggak ngerti.
奇跡を信じる私が勝てば、お前の目には水郷にしか見えなかったであろう我が研究のすべてが、この日に結実したことをはっきりと理解できるだろう。お前が勝てば、見たままの通り、いつ迎えが来てもおかしくない年寄りの水郷に終わるだけだ。
一体どんなギャンブルを始めるやら。あなたの友人としてその賭けに。
Rudolph kissing the receiver. On company
あなた
time?
が勝てるよう心からお祈りするだけです。
感謝する。
そういえば金蔵さん、今年の親族会議には懐かしい客がおられるそうですが。
何？
For once, Kinzo reacted to Nanjo's words and turned around.
ほら、ルドルフさんのところのバトラ君です。6年ぶりにおいでになるそうじゃありませんか。きっと立派になっていますよ。
なんだ、バトラか。6年ぶり程度の客人など懐かしいなどと呼びはせぬ。
After hearing Batro's name and making a disappointed and ill-humored expression, Kinzo turned his back again.
金蔵さんにとっての6年など、この部屋で研究に没頭すればあっという間のことでしょうからな。
本当に懐かしい客は、あるいは訪れるかもしれん。すべてはルーレットの出目次第だ。すでにルーレットは回り始めている。ルージュか、ノワールか。今宵、ルーレットがどんな奇跡を見せてくれるのか楽しませてもらおうではないか。配当は大きいぞ。
The payoff are the potential.
ベアトリーチェよ、我が賭けを受けるがいい。
At the time, the telephone on the table rang. The piercing sound seems to irritate Kinzo, and he picked up the receiver to preserve the silence as much as he could.
何事か。私は忙しい。
現時でございます。親族の皆様方が到着なされました。
だからどうしたというのだ。適当に茶でも出せばよい。
かしこまりました。そのようにいたします。
Kinzo hung up the phone rudely. Looking at that Nanjo's side yet again and shifted his attention outside of the window. As he is now, I doubt Kinzo would pay any heed to any sort of guest. Could any guest possibly make Kinzo come out when the time comes, as he said? Kinzo had a single person in mind, but that was a guest who certainly wouldn't appear. Or is it? Nanjo stared at the witch of the portrait with her impassive expression, unable to decide whether she was smiling or sad, and then gazed up at the lead-colored sky. No. What the fuck? Why are we here? Oh. Welcome back to Rock and Roll. We do hope you enjoy your stay. So, are all the pieces in place? Shall we line them up all again and start a new game?
何か問題は？
ねえよ。
No, what the fuck is this? The witch looked at him challengingly while elegantly smoking her pipe. And battlers? He just rudely shrugged his shoulder as if he didn't care what she did. He didn't meet her eyes. But that didn't mean he didn't intend to challenge her. It showed his clear determination to never be taken in by this bastard's trick. It was an expression of his determination to fight.
まさか無策ではあるまいな。
Round dogging it.
お前の出方がわからねえ以上、策も何もねえぜ。好きに先手を取ればいいじゃねえか。
もちろんそうさせていただくぞ。お前の守りをいかに崩すか、何手で詰めるか。わらわの腕の見せ所よ。
お前がどんな手で来ようが、俺はお前を信じない。その一点を俺が貫き通す限り、俺に負けはない。ってことはだ、このゲームはお前に勝てないようにできてるぜ。
そうかもしれぬ。しかしな、ゲームを何度繰り返すかはわらわが決めるぞ。そしてわらわが勝ち、そなたが負けを認めるまで何度でも繰り返されるぞ。
何度でも。
つまりこれは災難よ。そなたがわらわに屈服するまで続く永遠の災難。そなたがわらわを、魔女の存在を認めるまで永遠に続く。
なら、俺もお前が根負けするまで何度でも無限に付き合ってやるぜ。意地の張り合いってやつでは負けた例がねえんだ。
どこぞの魔女にでも入れ知恵されたか？まあよい。
まあよい。
聞き飽きたぜ。さあ、
udah main。
始めやがれ。
さあ、始めようではないか。そなたの指し手はすでに知り尽くしておる。手の内を知られた守りなどたかが知れておる。同じ手でしのぎきれると思うでないぞ。
ベアトリーチェ、一つだけ最初に言っておくことがある。
Tadi kamu yang bilang udah nggak usah ngomong ayo main. Terus sekarang dia bilang bentar dulu gue ngomong dulu.
を賜おうと自由だ。だが、俺が信じるかどうか、常に俺が自分で決める。貴様の魔法がどれほどのものだったとしても、俺の魂は屈しない。これは俺への拷問だと？違うね。
ならば何だというのか。
これはお前への拷問なのさ。
You are getting
お前がい
tortured.
つ俺に屈し、諦めるか。それまで繰り返される拷問なのさ。
面白いかな、その例えやよし。互いを苛み合う拷問とは実に面白い。
When ya?
さーて、始めようではないか。後ろ宮バトル
Me and who? Me and who? Are you still believing that Beatrice is real?
No, since now that we have mentioned that this is all things that were shown by Beatrice, this all could be manipulated, like how the fucking Natsuhi quote unquote battle with Beatrice. This is all bullshit, man. This is all bullcrap, man.
Long bullcrap. Every year, the relatives visiting Rokejima would let out a sigh of admiration at the rose garden that first greeted them. They would stop there to chat about the roses, beauty, and how well they were blooming that year. In the midst of all of this, there was a single unhealthy rose, and Maria became overwhelmed with dejection at its condition. But George used his quick wits, and saying that everything would be fine if they took care of this poor thing, marked it with a candy wrapper and immediately restores Maria's good mood. Then Butler, with whom she'd been getting along well since that morning, started talking about Halloween. This was such a favorite topic of Maria that she began playing around energetically again. To Maria, that marshmallow jack-o'-lantern candy bought by her mother was probably the greatest sort of treasure. They seemed to have bought several, and she demanded a trick or treat from every person she met, giving them candy instead of the other way around.
マリアはどうしてこんなにハロウィンが好きなんだろうな。日本人には一つ馴染みにくいイベントだと思ってたんだが。
仮装行列で練り歩く子供のお祭りだからじゃねえのか。普段と違う格好をしてはしゃぎ合うってのは楽しいぜ。
多分僕はもう少しディープな理由によるものだと思うな。何しろ魔女のマリアちゃんだからね。
そういや、飛行場でもマリアは仮装するなら魔女になりたいって言っていたっけ。マリアって魔女が好きなんだ。
ええ、大好きよ。困ったくらいに。
大好きよ。
まあまあ、あのくらいの年頃はファンタジックな存在に憧れるもんですから。
せめてテレビアニメのヒロインに憧れるくらいなら可愛いんだけど。
Judging by Rosa's appearance, she wasn't very happy about her daughter's love for witches as a mother. The cousin Southern Bachelor seems to realize this, and they shrugged, wearing stiff smiles. Nyingir.
魔女好きだとハロウィンも好きになるって論法なのか。わかんなきゃ本人に聞けばいいか。おいマリア、ハロウィンと魔女って何か関係あるのか。
As Butler asked that, George and Jessica let out a stifled ah, as if they were trying to stop him, but too late. Maria might have been waiting for just that question. After beaming for an instant, her expression turned a little mean, as if to say, "You're totally clueless, aren't you?" It was the face of hobbyists who have been ticked off by an outsider saying something stupid about their favorite subject.
ケルト人は1年間を通じてその勢いを変える太陽は1年を通して生まれ育ち老いて死んでそして再び蘇ると考えていたの。
納得だな。春のか弱いポカポカした太陽がどんどん成長して暑いくらいになり、 次第に痩せ衰えていく様をなるほど太陽の一生と考えるのもうなずけるぜ。
だから彼らは10月の最後に太陽は死に、死の国で体を休めて、冬至の日に再び蘇ると考えたの。それで太陽が1年の生涯を終えて死ぬその日を大晦日、サビンと呼んでお祝いしたの。
再び日照時間が長くなりだす冬至の日を太陽の復活の日とする考え方はとても面白いよね。古代の人々がいかに太陽を神聖視していたかがわかるエピソードだよ。
How are you all becoming a nerd like this? What do you mean?
で、それが魔女とどういう関係があるんだ？
It seemed that my casual urging forward had slightly infuriated Maria. She glared at me with the eyes that told me to shut up while she explained. Maria seemed to be having a blast as she talked, so I decided not to interrupt. Oh, we are going to first person
10月の
now.
狭間は生と死が最も近くなる。ケルト人たちはこの時期に聖者の世界と死者やこの世ならざる者の世界が最も近づき、異界の住人たちがたくさん訪れると信じてたの。日本でいうお盆みたいなものだよ。
At the time, people believed that souls returning to the physical world would go into people's houses or possess people and do bad things. So, in order to avoid harm, they performed rituals. One of those was to imitate creepy monster and scare the souls back, which was apparently a way to avoid being possessed is by being the monster itself.
その部分がお祭りになっていって仮装行列になってったんだな。マリアは本当に物知りだぜ。
ほんまやな。わしもハロウィンに備えな言われがあるなんて知らんかったわ。
しかしそれのどこにお菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞってことなんだ。
Her knowledge was so extensive that the adults had suddenly started listening in too. Maria, who was normally treated like the youngest of all time, puffed out her chest with pride. Saying that this was just a kids' discussion, Rosa suggested that the adults go on ahead and set their luggage down in the guest house. But nobody else agreed to go with her, and she let out a heavy sigh.
トリックオアトリートは単なるお遊び。本来のケルト人たちの儀式とは何の関係もない。それは後にキリスト教の習慣が混合してできたものなの。でもマリアは本来のハロウィンの姿とはそうあるべきだと思うの。
I'm concerned is how much is this is real.
I think the child stuff is real. That dressing up as the dead and everything is to not get possessed. According to Maria, the souls of the dead weren't the only ones who visited from the non-human world. There were also spirits and intimate connection. Oh, spirits with intimate connection to people's everyday life. Humans could receive favors from the spirits, so they managed to gain magnificent blessings, as well as a year's worth of good crop.
つまりハロウィンってのは収穫祭の意味も少しはあったわけか。
なるほどな。言われてみりゃ10月ってのは季節的にもいろいろ節目って気がするぜ。日本の4月のちょうど反対側だもんな。なるほど。キリはいいかもしれねえな。
そしてね、魔女たちはね、その時期に魔女集会サバトを開いたの。
Jadi ini actually udah beneran udah riset kah kayak apa? This never happens in the sama yang gue jadi penasaran apakah
そしてね、魔女たちはね、その時期に魔女集会サバトを開いたの。
Ini komik sudah dibikin dari sebelum Bono bikin
I am back. Komen. Tamunya udah pulang tadi.
魔女たちは豊かな恵みをもたらしてくれた精霊たちに感謝し、ねぎらったの。
ハロウィンの仮装は向こうから来る客人たちの模倣。つまり彼らにお菓子を施すのは一年の収穫への感謝の気持ちがあってもいいわけだね。
ジョージお兄ちゃんの言う通り。
つまりハロウィンはこの世とあの世の交流のある時期ってわけなんだな。
Inter I don't like the word intermingle.
What do you mean?
Mingle has innuendo in it.
おお、バトラの言う通り。だからね、魔女たちや悪魔たちの力が最も活発で盛んになるのが10月なの。きっとベアトリーチェも来てくれる。そしてね、一緒にマシュマロお菓子食べて、マリアも黄金鏡に連れてってもらうの。一緒に魔法のお歌を歌って、魔法の呪文を習って、魔法陣の書き方を習うの。そしてね、ルーンの秘密を習って、早くマリアを立派な魔女にしてもらうの。
あらあら、それは素敵ね。子供は夢があるのが一番よ。ところでローザ、マリアちゃんは今年でいくつになったんだったかしら。
mulai.
マリア、もうそのお話は終わりにしなさい。
気にしないでローザさん。女の子なら誰だって一度は思い描く夢じゃない。
ありがとうございます。でももうマリアはそういう年を卒業していますので。こら、やめなさいと言ってるでしょ。
Rosa scolded Maria, trying to shut her up before her cheery discussion about black magic earned her the snickers of the relatives.
へえ、そいつはなんだかスケ
ダニョン
ールのでかい話だな。ところで、ベアトリーチェって誰だっけ？
誰？
なんだっけ？聞いた名前だな。
Battler had been gone for 6 years and had completely forgotten about the legend of the Rokkenjima witch. However, when he said he didn't know Beatrice's name, Maria once bright mood soured in an instant. When he saw that, Batra immediately remembered that it was the name of the witch of this island. But the damage had been done already. Until Maria's mood improved, she went on and on about many mysteries and fabulous episodes regarding the Golden Witch. Episode 1, clearly.
もうよしなさい、マリア。ありがとうね、バトラ君。お話に付き合ってくれて。カノン君、お仕事があるんでしょ？もう行ってちょうだい。ゴーダさん、みんなとりあえず荷物を置きたがってると思うの。
Apa sih lu pabrik rumah saja bukan?
悪いんだけど、みんなをゲストハウスへ案内してくれるかしら。
かしこまりました。それでは皆様、ゲストハウスへご案内いたします。
それでは失礼いたします。
I like that Goda dikasih di like order kayak, oh tolong ya guide kita ke guest house, and then kanan dia bilang nggak ada kerjaan. Goda led the relatives and they began to head towards the guest house. They were eager to set down their luggage and take a breather, so they didn't realize that Rosa and Maria weren't coming with them. After watching them leave towards the guest house, Rosa's face changed suddenly, and so is the person inside her. She let go with the hand that had been gripping Maria this whole time. There was a bright red mark there, making it clear how much excessive force she had been using on Maria's slender arm. That hand then slapped against Maria's head, pinched her left ear and lifted.
魔女の話はするなといつも言ってるでしょうが。それはママとの約束だといつも言っているでしょ。ママ痛い、ママ痛い、痛い、ハロウィン、ハロウィン、うるさいのよ、あんたは。魔女のお祭り？ケルト人が何よ、黒魔術が何よ、バカじゃないの。あんた9歳よ、9歳。電車であんなに騒ぐから、わざわざ電車降りてまでその蛍光塗料みたいな気持ち悪いお化けマシュマロを買ってやったのよ。
Udah SD, Jir?
Iya, SD kelas 4, kelas 3, kelas 4, Jir.
Kelas 4, kelas 4, kelas 4.
Yeah, still normal. What the fuck,
I don't know, man. I'm edgy until I'm like junior high.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe. You know, she has BPD, okay? We can't really understand that.
あんた、どこまで私の顔を潰せば気が済むのよ。
As Rosa cuts, she twists Maria's ears up, although as though she was about to tear it off. An expression of anguish spread across Maria's face while she frantically stood on her tipped toes, trying to soften the pain in that ear. Rosa suddenly grabbed the candy that Maria had been holding. Okay, this is going excessive. Terus dilempar ke garden. She threw it into the ground and stepped, even worse than it, stepped on it over and over. To Maria, it was supposed to be proof of her memory, of a brief span of time when her mother had bought something fun for her. But now, that same mother was grinding it into the ground, right in front of her eyes. It was as though a brand had been pushed into Maria's eyes, leaving a mark that could never be erased.
こんな気持ち悪いお菓子が何よ。気持ち悪い、気持ち悪い。あんたがそんなんだから、あんたがそんなんだから。気持ち悪い、気持ち悪い、気持ち悪い。
As she said that, she struck Maria's head over and over again with her palm. Thanks for the anime to animate this part. I can already see how it is. She didn't hit Maria's face, because the red swelling would stand out. Maria closed her eyes tightly, patiently bearing her mother's violence. No, that wasn't quite it.
帰っ ってきてママ、帰ってきてママ、助けてママ、助けてママ、悪い魔女に打ち勝って。
She kept bearing Rosa's assault, muttering that over and over. Plot.
その魔女ってのやめろつってんのよ。この
Rosa, tired from hitting her daughter, breathed so hard her shoulders shook. Maria grasped her hands together, withstanding it, hoping her mother would return soon.
Starting to think maybe the husband left because the wife is bipolar. I don't know.
If that were the case, if it's only just about Rosa, I think he would took Maria in. As in like custody.
いつまでもそこでそうしていなさい。そしてそこで魔女でもハロウィンでもいつまでもブツブツ一人で言ってればいいのよ。
After hurling those words at Maria, Rosa left in the direction of the guest house, leaving Maria behind. Terus dia beneran berdiri. Because Maria, forgetting even that it was okay to cry, kept staring down at the jack-o'-lantern candy that had been trampled beyond recognition.
Mana itu masih utuh.
You understand the point of imagination, yeah?
This is a visual novel. This is not a novel, you know.
あら、ローザ。どこ行ってたの？
Nana.
ごめんなさい。バラが素敵だったもので、ついつい。
ローザ、早く荷物を置いてこいよ。兄貴んとこへ挨拶に行こうぜ。
兄貴。
マリアちゃんはどうしたんや？まだ花壇におるんかいな。
ええ、気に入ったバラがあるみたいで、世話をするって言って聞かなくて、しばらくは好きにさせることにしました。
女の子には女の子の世界があったことを、私たちはたまに忘れるわ。時には尊重してあげないとね。
そうね。お気遣いをありがとう、キリエ姉さん。ゴーダさん、私たちの部屋はどこ？
ご案内いたします。お荷物をお持ちいたしましょう。
結構よ。自分で持てます。ありがとう。
Rosa went into her room, guided by Goda. She then closed the door somewhat violently and threw her luggage on top of the bed. She got down on her knees in front of the bed, burying her face in it. For a while, Rosa made as if to shred the sheets with her fingernails, sobbing constantly.
Maria 様、大丈夫ですか？
Kanon appeared from behind a thicket after watching Rosa leave.
平気だよ。
Maria gave a creepy laugh, but to Kanon, who had seen the whole thing, it looked like she was enduring as best she could.
Dia lihat itu apa coping mental, mekanisme. What the fuck, aduh.
Yeah, she thinks it's a coping mechanism. It is though.
あれで母親なんて。
仕方ないよ。その程度の。
仕方ないよ。
Wait, jadi ini bukan jadi anaknya juga personality disorder dan
anaknya juga BPD. Exactly, everyone has BPD.
Maria は全然平気だよ。
Bapaknya juga punya BPD, makanya dia keluar apa tuh, ini yang lagi pergi nih, ini kepribadian yang satunya lagi, bukan kepribadian yang kepribadian satunya lagi mau apa tuh, aku kangen kapan ya ketemu balik sama anakku dan istriku tersayang gitu.
Kanan got down on his knees and picked up the trampled candy. I think it comes from Kinzoku. That's it. It was tragic.
Apa Kinzo juga punya?
What the fuck do you think? Kinzo has DPD?
No, Kindo is just yearning.
Kinzo is crazy. He made the personality that fucking Beatrice is real. Okay, he's not real. And the other personality that Kinzo has is the good businessman.
Emasnya dari mana? Emasnya dari mana beli? Emasnya dari mana beli? Emas batangannya.
It was his own. It was his own gold. He owns the gold. He says to himself that this is miracle, and then he switched to the business side. And they'll be like, oh, where is this gold coming from? And I was like, oh my god, it's the witch! It was his own gold. Remember, Kinzo, keluarganya dulu punya perusahaan. Right? I'm saying the gold is actually his family's inheritance, but because his family died tragically, the kakak, coping mechanismly, he says it's from a witch.
Oh my god.
I genuinely believe that is the case. He thought about dusting it off and returning it, but really couldn't do so with it in that condition. Just as he was wondering what to do, he met Maria's gaze. No, that wasn't quite right. Maria was looking at the candy Kanon had picked up. Right now, Maria's heart was surely the same as the candy that had been trampled into a pulp. I like pulp. Kanon realized this, but didn't know what he should do.
そうだ。さっき僕がもらったのと交換してあげるよ。
Kanon remembered that similar candy he'd received from Maria was in his pocket. Maria stuck out her hand. Kanon thought she was trying to take it, so he held out the candy, but Maria didn't try to grasp it. Then Kanon realized she was saying, give it back. No matter how tragic and trampled it was, this candy was Maria's. Her mother had bought it for her. No matter how tragic, it had to be this candy and no other. If only it were intact enough, it could be fixed by dusting it off. Kanon hung his head.
僕には誇りを払う程度しかできない。ごめん。
Kanon held out a miserable-looking candy Maria wanted. Is it a marshmallow or is it a candy? And she
It's
took
a
it out.
candy
She took it
filled
and
with
spoke.
marshmallow.
She took it and spoke.
ありがとう。人間には
お
誇りしか
ありがとう
払えないけど、魔女には元通りに直すことができるよ。
Yomigaeru! Watashi no marshmallow!
マリア様はベアトリーチェ様のことをご存知なのですか？
Except for Batra, there was no way anyone related to the Ushirome family could have failed to know Beatrice's name. But just now, Maria had bragged about Beatrice to Butler. She had spoken almost as though she was meeting with Beatrice regularly. Kanon felt a sharp pain inside his left hand, which was curled into a fist. In the past, a witch called Beatrice had appeared to tempt him and Shannon. He'd always tried to think of it as a bad, bad dream. However, Shannon insisted that it was definitely a real witch. And then this summer, the shrine to the local Shinto god was hit by lightning. disappearing without a trace over the span of a single night. He knew about Shannon breaking that mirror. Shannon did break the mirror, and he remembered that as the witch departed, she said she'd eventually be revived. Yomigairu. And now, this girl who believed absolutely in Beatrice spoke as though she had met Beatrice herself. Kanan couldn't suppress a vague sense of foreboding welling up in his heart. For a while, Maria remained silent, as though she could see into Kanan's heart. Almost as though she was waiting for a memory of Beatrice to be revived. And then she spoke as though it was a fact.
マリアはね、
蘇る。
ベアトリーチェとお友達なの。
お友達なの。
会って一緒に遊ぶよ。
Maybe in episode 3 kita beneran lihat Beatrice sama Maria.
うん、遊ぶよ。一緒にね、魔法のお勉強をするの。
魔法の勉強。The face of that witch, whom Kanon had tried to pretend was a bad, bad dream, began to slowly creep into the back of his mind.
お父様は研究で大変ご多忙と仰せです。残念ながら、こちらへはおいでになれないとのことです。
やれやれ。こちとら秋の大忙しの中、日程をつけて、はるばる六軒島まで来てるんだぜ。親父も少しは愛想を良くしてもらいたいもんだぜ。
ほんとよね。南條先生、本当に研究や機嫌の問題なの？ベッドから起き上がれないくらいに容体が悪いって言うんじゃないの？
Udah mau mati belum dia, Sensei?
どうでしょう。私の口からは何とも。
Nanjo glanced at Natsuhi. It seemed he thought it wasn't his place to speak without first getting Natsuhi's approval.
お父様はますますにご健康でいらっしゃいます。寝たきりなどと失礼極まりない。
でも余命3ヶ月なんでしょ？普通に考えれば痩せ衰えてベッドからも起きられないはずよ。でしょ、南條先生？
波の患者ならそうでしょうがな。金蔵さんは並外れた気力をお持ちです。あの気迫に今回も恐れて近寄れないのかもしれませんな。
それほどまでにお元気なら少なくとも安心ね。
そこまで元気ならせめて挨拶くらいはさせてほしいもんなんだがな。親族会議ってのは親父の顔を見に来たって意味なんだぜ。これじゃ何のために来たのかわからねえぜ。
そう言うな。いればいたで心が休まらないといつもぼやくのだろうが。兄弟一同水入らずで今年も全員欠けることなく集まれたことを喜ぼうじゃないかね。
昨年の親族会議でも会えなかったのよ。血を分けた子供たちが2年ぶりに挨拶したいというのがどうして理解してもらえないのかしら。
挨拶の言葉があるのでしたら、私どもがお伝えします。それとも、エヴァさん、何かお父様にお会いして、挨拶以上のお話でもあられるのですか？
What is this?
いやね、何の話よ、も
う。予算か、エヴァ。夏井さん、堪忍な。エヴァも娘としてお父さんの病状が不安なだけなんや。ちょいと気持ちを汲み取ってな。
その通りだな。エヴァは親父殿が余命を宣告されてから急に親孝行をするようになったじゃないか。なるほど。その姿をぜひ見てもらいたいという気持ちもわからなくない。
何が言いたいのよ。
よせよ、姉貴。晩飯までには機嫌を直してくれるよう祈ろうじゃねえか。それに俺たちは到着したばかり。まずは軽く挨拶に訪れただけだぜ。親族会議は親父抜きだってできる。いや、兄弟で意見を統一してからじゃなきゃ話せねえことだっていろいろあるはずだぜ。な、秀吉兄さん。
そうや。ルドルフ君の言う通りや。わしらが全員顔を揃えるのは年に一度しかない。貴重な時間を大事にし、汚い話し合いをせんといかん。
Even though the tea hadn't yet arrived, they were very determined.
でも、その前に本家の素晴らしい調度品に囲まれた客間で、のんびりと紅茶を楽しむゆとりがあってもいいんじゃないかしら。
Santai dulu gak sih? Kiri's words seemed to contain a subtle admonition directed at everyone's gathered there. They all understood, and as they cleared up their throats and straightened their neckties, the atmosphere in the room returned to normal for a time.
失礼します。お茶をお持ちいたしました。
よー、シャノンちゃん。
よー、
ますますべっぴんさんになったな。
Wait. Shannon entered the parlor pushing the serving cart. Tolong ya mas, matanya dijaga. Everyone decided to relax and enjoy some black tea for the time being. A wonderful aroma began to spread throughout the room. As far as anyone could see, the strained atmosphere from before Shannon's arrival seems like a lie. Of course, Shannon was setting out the tea, probably didn't even notice. Kitty seemed to laugh faintly at how adult everyone was suddenly acting. Rudolph did like it when Kitty took the initiative and spoke at the family conference. It was his wordless male pride. Male pride. He probably didn't want to look like a weak man who took advice from his wife. A weak man, don't take advice. She understood that and did her best to refrain from saying any more than that was necessary. So, she separated herself from the circle of siblings who only superficially appeared to be enjoying some time together alone and casually drank her tea near the window, where she saw Beatrice.
あら、ローザさん。兄弟で水いらずなのでは？
ご冗談を。
ごめんなさい。
Bercanda kamu.
気を悪くしないで。うちの夫に呆れてるだけだから。
Apparently, Elsa hadn't been able to keep up with the on-the-surface friendliness. They'd come here to fight bloodily and dirtily, each trying to grab a part of an inheritance for themselves. She probably didn't like suddenly pretending that they were all chummy. Or maybe she was still too immature for that. Would you call it
だいぶ風が
immature?
出てきているようですね。枝葉があんなに揺れて。
もう台風が近くまで来ているのでしょうね。今夜あたりからはだいぶ降るのかしら。
マリアちゃん、この1年で随分立派になりましたね。
Aduh, kena lagi nih.
そう見えます。未だに自分のお洋服を畳むことすらできないんですよ。
ええ。こんなにも愛情たっぷりのお母さんと一緒なんですもの。心の豊かな子に成長しますよ。
Rosa fell silent. Maybe she was unsure as to what Kiri meant by it.
私なんて母親失格ですよ。子に生まれる親は選べない。あの子がかわいそうで。
お互い様じゃないですか。親だって生まれる子は選べない。
Rosa bit her lower lip.
どちらが悪いとかじゃなくて、 一緒に生きていくんだという気持ちで、ゆっくり成長を見守ってあげればいいじゃないですか。ローザさんは毎日をマリアちゃんと過ごしてるから、小さな変化に気づかないかもしれないけれど、1年ぶりに再会した私たちには、その大きな成長ぶりがよくわかりますよ。
もし本気で言ってくれてるならありがとうございます。それでは失礼いたします。ご用がありましたらいつでもお呼びつけください。
Shannon bowed politely and left the room. And as Hideyoshi and Rudolph, who had a soft spot for a woman, watched her go, okay. The atmosphere in the room began to revert back to what it had been right before Shannon's visit.
お父様がいらっしゃられないなら、それはそれでできる話もあるというものよ。ねえ、ルドルフ？
ああ、そうだな。俺たちははるばるここまで、埃の匂いがする紅茶を飲みに来たわけじゃねえぜ。
よかろう。一秒を争ってお前たちがしたいという話を聞こうじゃないか。
やれやれ、たくましい人たちね。早速始めたわ。
私も加わらないといけないわ。あの人たち、私が主張しないと4人兄弟であることをすぐ忘れるから。
あなたも大変ね。ちょっと言葉を選ばなかったかしら。ごめんなさい。
ううん、気にしてません。こちらこそごめんなさい。私たち互いに娘を持つ母親同士なんだから、もっと交流しなきゃいけないのに。
Berarti ada anaknya dari kiri sendiri, I guess. Sebelum sama
会えば変な話ばかりで。
sebelum sama Rudolph berarti, maybe.
Tapi nggak pernah ditunjukin siapa.
Bahkan nggak, bukan Shinomiya jatuhnya.
Nggak ada rambut putihnya. Siapa yang rambut putih di siapa?
Nggak ada kan, dia nggak diajak aja, bukan Shinomiya nggak diajak.
Ini rambutnya putih nih, Nanjo.
Oh, enak.
この屋敷の空気のせいよ。ここの空気を嗅ぐと、いっつも私たちはギスギスし合ってるもの。ローザさんとは親族会議じゃない席で、一度ゆっくりお茶でも飲みたいわ。銀座に行きつけの素敵な喫茶店があるの。ぜひ今度招待させて。
ありがとう、キリエさん。その時はぜひ。
いやーね、急に空が暗くなってきたわ。まるでこの部屋の人たちが天気を悪くしてるみたい。もうゴロゴロ鳴ってるわ。あら、ぽつりと来たかしら。
There really were small splashes of rain on the glass of the parlor window. The weather seemed to have worsened faster than expected. Just then, a silent thunderbolt struck inside Rosa's head, and she remembered that her beloved child was out in the rose garden. A normal girl would try to go inside if the weather got bad. But Maria is no normal girl. She would sometimes get stubborn and refuse to move if rain or even spears fell from the sky. That's right. I told that child to just stay there doing that forever, didn't I?
いけない、マリア。
Everyone looked back at Rosa when she let out a small scream.
なんだ、どうしたんだね。
ごめんなさい。ちょっと表に行ってきます。すぐ戻ります。
なんだなんだ、どうしたってんだあいつ。
いいじゃない。すぐ戻るわよ。それより始めたら、私たちの本題。
Loh, kamu ikut juga mau ikut ya?
ローザ抜きでも進められる話よ。話を戻しましょう。
Rosa dashed from the entrance hall into the rose garden.
And then she see golden hair witch,
Beatrice!
Beatrice.
When she opened the door, the wind that hit her was too strong to be called a light breeze, and told her that the typhoon was approaching faster than she thought. Just as Kiri had said, the wind was mixed in with small droplets of rain. There was also a low rumble of thunder. It could start raining any time. Rosa headed for the rose garden. She headed for the place where she had scolded Maria a short while ago. It was almost lunchtime. The children had been told to come to the mansion around lunchtime. So they were probably in the guest house waiting to be called. Even if Maria didn't come to them, they would surely think I took her to the mansion with me and wouldn't worry much. After all, she had been with her mother, so there should have been no reason to worry. I was here, and I abandoned my daughter to the worsening weather. I was right. She was still standing stock still, exactly the same way she had been in the place where I had scolded her. Held in her hand was the candy that I had bought, given her, and then stepped on and crushed. With that gripped in her hand, she stood there as the powerful wind whipped her hair about, tormenting her. Let's go! There is a certain market for this.
ママ、おかえり。マリア、ママが帰ってくるの、ずっと待ってた。怖い魔女につねられたけど、我慢して、ママが帰ってくるの、泣かずに待ってた。マリ
Rambut dia sama persis, warnanya sama persis kayak Beatrice gak sih? I'm not schizo, right?
Technically, yes.
I'm
yeah,
not schizo,
you're not schizo. You can look at it. You can look at the fucking logs and the thingy, you know? Just try and check it out. It is the same. Apa? Kamu kira dia anaknya Beatrice?
Apakah Bad Witch yang selama ini dianggap ngerasukin itu Beatrice gitu? Apa?
また悪い魔女に取りつかれただけなの。
They're just BPD.
Suaminya dia Beatrice, suaminya dia Beatrice.
だから平気。ママ大好き。愛してる。
Kayak Suguru gitu di Jujutsu Kaisen.
I do not watch Jujutsu Kaisen. I do not watch shonen. Rosa buried her face in Maria's small chest, crying and begging for forgiveness. And once again, those tears dripped down after who knows how many times. If only the brilliant sun had been shining on the two of them, all of their cares would have evaporated, and it might have felt like they could begin anew. However, what surrounded the two of them was the worsening weather. Sadly, there were only fierce winds with occasional thunder. The sound of Maria sniffling brought Rosa to her senses. If Maria stood exposed to the wind for too long, she'd probably catch a cold.
さあ、もうすぐお昼よ。ママと一緒にお屋敷に行きましょう。
行かない。
どうして？
Rosa thought she already received Maria's forgiveness, so she hadn't imagined Maria would refuse.
Because Beatrice told me to not move.
But that expression on Maria's face didn't look like that of a child resisting her mother. So Rosa couldn't understand why Maria wanted to stand still, pointlessly, as the weather grew even worse. Maria answered that question.
ベアトリーチェがね、もうすぐ来るの。だから待ってるの。
マリア、
Rosa struggled to find words for a moment, then fell silent. They only just managed to make up. After all, masa berantem lagi? She chose her words carefully, trying to get Maria to come with her to the mansion without denying the witch outright.
ベアトリーチェが来るの？そう。なら、ここじゃなくて、お屋敷の中で待ちましょう。いつまでもこんな風の中にいたら、風邪をひいてしまうわ。
来る！ベアトリーチェは来る！そしたらね、ベアトリーチェにね、お菓子あげるの。トリックオアトリートするの。ジャック・オーランタンのマシュマロお菓子あげて、ハッピーハロウィンって言うの。
ハッピーハロウィン。Maria pulled yet another sweet out of her handbag and moaning, "Ooh!" Rosa was bewildered and didn't know what to do as Maria started being difficult again. At the time, there was a sudden blast of thunder. It was probably a sign. A sign that this island had been sealed off by the storm, detached from common sense and reality. So, after this moment, all common sense would probably cease to apply. The wind blew even stronger, and amidst the blizzard of scattered rose petals, a figure appeared, leaving Rosa unable to imagine that this was a scene from reality. It was probably, no, definitely fantastical. After all, that shadow of a person was. Wait, oh my god, she's so pretty! Kenapa pakai seragam sekolah? Let's fucking go, anjir. Maria dashed over to the shadow. Normally, Rosa would scold her daughter if she dashed over to someone whom she hadn't seen before and didn't know. But Rosa forgot to do that. Was unable to do anything but stand there and stun.
久しぶりよ。元気であったか？
マリアは元気。魔女は風邪をひかない。
魔女は呪いにて風邪をひかせはするが、自らが引いてはなんとも間抜けな話よ。
Yang mana yang kiri atau yang tengah, Mir?
BG.
せいぜい自らが風邪をひくことなどないよ。これからも精進するがいい。
She patted Maria's head as she said this, smiling roguishly. Rosa couldn't have known the name of the woman who was happily spoiling Maria. Maria had called it out in the beginning when the woman had appeared. So even though Rosa had never met her, even though the woman still hadn't introduced herself, Rosa was able to know her name. However, that name held a special meaning on Rokkenjima, and in the Ushiromiya family. There's no way something that stupid could be.
ベアトリーチェ、ハッピーハロウィン。ほら、買ったの。ベアトにもあげる。
ハッピーハロウィン。ほう。
Gila,
これ
cakep
をわらわ
banget,
れと
jujur.
は天国にも地獄にも行けず、煉獄の闇にてさまよう男の唯一の明かりも、こうして歌手となれば実に可愛らしいことよ。人の世とも人ならざる者との世とも切り離された今のこの島で、これほどふさわしい歌詞はないかもしれぬな。ん？マリア、それはどうしたのか？
Cakep banget ini. The witch noticed the sweet Maria was grasping. It was Maria's candy, which had been stomped on by Rosa until it reached this pitiful state.
Gua malah lebih demen baju dia yang biasa daripada pakai. Kan pakai serang itu ya.
Nah, fam. What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Shit taste kamu, bro.
Fuck you.
Woman in suit? Yes, sir. Maria didn't go so far to say as it was her mother who'd stepped on it. However, for some reason, when the witch saw the candy, she looked at Rosa and grinned. A chill went down Rosa's spine, as though this gaze was staring straight through her.
たやすいことよ。貸すがよい。
Kasugayoi. Maria held the candy out gleefully. Rosa could do nothing but watch and stunned. How did this person plan to trick Maria, somehow undoing the fact that the candy had been pitifully trampled? Maria looked as though she believed it could be fixed good as new. Without real magic, there was no way such a thing could possibly
これは
happen.
見事に潰れているな。さあさあマリア、目を閉じて思い出してごらんなさい。本当はあんなにも素敵なお菓子だったから。思い出の中のお菓子はいつもふっくら。だからあなたも思い出してごらんなさい。本当はどんなお菓子だったのか。
The switch sama yang dikasih. Essie.
Ngerel.
Along with those strange words spoken as though singing an improvised waltz song, the witch threw the sweet into the air. Maria was closing her eyes and remembering just as the witch had told her to. What shape had that crushed candy really had? Therefore, only Rosa saw the scene. The sweet had been thrown to the air, burst into a gold color. No, that wasn't it. Those were golden butterflies. It scattered into several golden butterflies, and they began to gather at the witch's hand, which was held up to the sky. And as she did, unbelievably, it returned to its beautiful original form, no different from when it had been bought. Only Rosa and the witch witnessed that scene. Unable to comprehend what was occurring right before her eyes, Rosa stood with her mouth hanging open, completely forgetting to shut it.
もう目を開けてよいぞ。受け取るがよい。これでそなたの歌詞も元通りだ。
ベアトリーチャはいつもすごいすごい。
There was a stark contrast between Rosa's shock and Maria's innocent joy. Was that what the witch was laughing at? A smile floated to Beatrice's face, one different from the smile she had shown to Maria.
わらわの顔が何かに似ているというのか。
Oh beda deh, yang ini lebih mengkilap menurutnya kayak Nevermind.
そうまじまじと見られては穴も開こうぞ。
ごめんなさい。
Those words triggered something very clearly in Rosa's mind. Rosa knew this face. She knew it from the portrait of the witch. But no, wait, could this mystery woman really be?
マリア、この歌詞の代わりに、そなたにはこれを与えよう。
おお、手紙？
The witch pulled a western envelope from her pocket and gave it to Maria. However, when Maria made to open it, the witch stopped her.
ならぬ。それを開けるときはすぐに訪れるが、それまで決して開けてはならぬ。大事に持っているがよい。そなたを黄金鏡へいざなう招待状となろう。
黄金鏡、やっと連れてってくれるんだね。
大事にしまっておくのだぞ。誰にも見せてはならぬ。
守る。 約束は絶対に守る。
そしてこれはそなたへ。
Ini juga.
私
She probably hadn't imagined that the witch would speak to her too. Rosa was bewildered by the second Western envelope which was thrust before her. She had seen this type of envelope before. There could be no mistake. It was one of Kinzo's special envelopes, used when he wrote with his own hands and bearing the Ushiromiya family crest. It was sealed with red sealing wax, and furthermore it had a mark that seemed to have been made by the head's ring. In other words, even without asking what was inside this letter, Rosa knew that this woman whom Maria called Beatrice was trusted enough to be placed in charge of a personal letter of the current Ushiromiya head.
4兄弟の誰でもよかった。だがここでそなたと出会ったということは、金蔵のルーレットがそなたを選んだということなのだろう。ならば受け取るがよい。そしてその中身を全兄弟の揃う晩餐の席上で読み上げよ。
読み上げよ。Rosa looked back and forth several times between the witch's face and the envelope that had been handed to her. Today was the family conference, and the biggest object of discussion would be the inheritance problem. So, she had joined together with Effa and Rudolf, and they planned to force a certain condition on Kraus to try and extort several 100 million yen in cash out of him. It was as if the witch could see through all of that. What does she intend to announce when all of her siblings are gathered? And with a personal envelope that no one but the Ushiromiya head can use?
マリア、天気が崩れるぞ。ゲストハウスへ戻り、昼を待つがよい。それではローザ、後ほど会おう。その席で改めて名乗らせてもらおうぞ。
Gila, cakep banget, Jir. I can't. The witch turned her back to her, laughing. Then she began to head towards the mansion with an air of composure. Maria energetically called out and watched her go, then began to dash towards the guest house, leaving Rosa behind. As though she wanted to inform the other cousins of her fortunate meeting with the witch as soon as she could. At last, Rosa was left alone in the rose garden as the wind grew stronger. Unable to do anything but pray that what happened was just a daydream. Pecah.
Sepertinya teori itu sudah
Pecah
dipatahkan
juga.
dulu. Sebenarnya teori itu sudah dipatahkan.
Really. When the witch entered the entrance hall, Genji could be seen there. Genji welcomed the guest approaching from the entrance hall with a respectful bow.
お待ちいたしておりました。
Kenapa nggak ngomong dia Beatrice samanya?
Enggak kayak gara-gara ngebug. Cuman kok beda sekarang? The fuck?
Pahanya ada
iya,
aduh,
what the
Ushiromiya.
fuck? This is the 19th person on the day of the family conference. She goes by the same name as the Golden Witch who gave the gold to Kinzo. Her reason for visiting are unknown. She was ushered into the VIP room which no one has been allowed to use in the past.
Hisashiburi da na, Genji. 老いたではないか。
どれほどに老いようとも、家具は家具らしく、最後までおつと。
あれの妻が、お前に嫉妬したことも懐かしい。金蔵は元気か？
大変お元気にございます。
Ex Palakao.
Extremely well. The witch probably laughed because she knew Kinzo's own doctor had announced that Kinzo didn't have long to live. However, if anyone actually looked at Kinzo's and noticed his figure, which wasn't at all what you expect from someone's nearing the end of his life, they might easily call that doing extremely well. Maybe that's what the witch was laughing at.
挨拶に行こうではないか。30年ぶりに。互いに呪いの言葉を吐き合うもよかろう。
As the witch grinned, she started walking, leaving Genji behind. Her gait was like that of a family member who knew the inside of the mansion well. Genji followed her in the manner of one who served her. You're... At the time, Kiri came out of the parlor. She'd probably gone out to fix her makeup or something. And when she saw Genji following a witch, she was surprised, although her expression did not change. A guest for Kinzo had arrived, despite him being almost dead. On the day of the family conference, when the fate of the inheritance was to be decided. And furthermore, this person was familiar enough with the Ushiromiya family household that Genji was following behind her. Kiri immediately realized that this person she never met before was deeply important. Kiri and the witch's eyes meet. Realizing that it would be rude to pretend not to notice, she greeted the witch.
はじめまして。ルドルフの5歳だったか。
5歳。
さようでございます。ルドルフ様の今の奥方様であられます。キリエ様でございます。
After this exchange, Kiri realized that this was the guest of a fairly high rank even amidst the Ushiromiya family. But no, Haman. Even the fact that this was a guest on that level, coupled with her resemblance to the portrait in the entrance hall, made Kiri's eyes instantly open wide.
I blocked in now. I'm wide awake.
Wash. Udah kayak drama India aja.
キリエと申します。初対面でしょうか。もし以前に挨拶をしていたなら、名前を忘れてしまって申し訳ございません。
うすうすは想像がついているくせに、わらわにあえて名乗らそうというのか。
Oh ya Allah. Aduh, tai maaf ya. Kiri thought she'd given a sociable and humble greeting. Her expression grew slightly cloudy at an openly oppressive response. At any rate, this didn't seem to be a good person she could grow to like. Ada itu, bro. Ada switchnya itu. Apa, fotonya tadi balik kayak. But if Kiri guesses were correct, this witch probably held the vital key to what her own husband was most interested in. Something that couldn't help but influence tonight's family conference. So, without shooting back at her retort, Kiri sadly watched her go up the stairs at the second floor with Genji following behind. Are we gonna see Kinzo looking at Beatrice? Chat? So, when someone tapped her shoulder from behind, she was so surprised she almost choked. It was Natsuhi.
キリエさん、このようなところに立ち尽くして、いかがなさいましたか？
ごめんなさい。ちょっと魔女の肖像画に見とれていただけです。
Wait.
Not even gonna say that she.
Wait.
Balik. Fotonya balik lagi tuh. Ada switchnya.
黄金の魔女、ベアトリーチェですか。今日の後宮家の復興は、彼女が授けた黄金がなければ成し遂げられなかったとか。お父様らしい幻想的なお話ですね。
Oto gimana sih? Natsuhi spoke in perfectly ordinary way. It was the sort of comment you'd expect from someone convinced that the thought of a witch existing was ridiculous, no more than another Kinzo's ramblings. However, for some reason, that point of view didn't seem quite right to Kiri now. Just a moment ago, she herself had seen the Golden Witch come in from the entrance hall and climb up the stairs. So Natsuhi's words made it feel as though someone was trying to deny the existence of that person, or else make it seem like she was never there to begin with.
ごめんなさい。少し頭痛がする気がして、ちょっと休もうと思います。
あら、そうですか？なら、良い頭痛薬がありますよ。用意させましょう。
The hallway in front of Kinzo's study was filled with the scent of sweet poison, peculiar to that green liquor. Genji, who was completely used to it, did not grimace. And the Golden Witch didn't grimace either.
この中からどれほど出ぬのか。
すでに数年になるかと思います。
Several years.
それほどまでにわらわをカゴの鳥としたいか。哀れな。それを願うそなたが今やカゴの鳥、書斎の亡霊ではないか。それに気づけぬとは哀れな男よ。
あなた様と再びお会いする日までは、おそらく文字通り亡霊となっても研究を続けられるでしょう。
愛か狂気か猛襲か。それも講じれば魔力となるか。悲しき魔術師よ。
The witch grasped the doorknob to the study. Tapi doorknobnya ada kepiting. Oh iya. When she did, there was a sound like that of flesh burning and splitting open. It was the sound of the doorknob literally burning the witch's hand.
ベアトリーチェ様。
なんだこれは。魔除けか。あやつめ。こんなものに頼らなければ、おのがみも保てぬというのか。
その扉は、ベアトリーチェ様にはおつらいものと伺っております。
Kenapa nggak lu yang bukain, orang Baron?
私がお開けいたしましょう。
Baru nawarin sekarang aja, buru banget.
いや、よい。あやつが勝てば、わらわは永遠のカゴの鳥。あやつが負ければ、愛に狂い、すべてを失った哀れな魔術師の生涯が、笑い草となって残るだけ。
Okay, so at least Beatrice recognizes he's a magician?
もはや金蔵もわらわさえも、ゲーム盤に並べられた駒に過ぎぬ。あとは、ルーレットの目が勝敗を分けるだけよ。ルーレットが目を見せるまで。わらわと金蔵が再会する必要はない。
The witch looked at her hand, which was beginning to heal bit by bit, even though it had been horribly burned.
あるいは、そのための魔除けなのか。なるほど。それもまた潔し。すべては今や、金蔵のゲーム盤の上よ。気に入ったぞ、金蔵。そなたとのゲーム、楽しませてもらうぞ。わらわに恋焦がれ、すべての生涯を投げ出したローマ術師の最後のギャンブル。その血様を楽しませてもらうぞ。
Ay, pecah aja. Jam 1 siang.
失礼いたします、 昼食をお持ちいたしました。
入れ。
失礼いたします。
After receiving approval, Kanon entered the VIP room, pushing the serving cart that carried lunch. The servants called this room the Witch's VIP room. It was because Ginzo strictly ordered that it always be kept clean so that it could be used at any time. Even so, guests would not be allowed into this room no matter who they were. That's why at some point the servants had started calling it the VIP room, which is supposed to be set aside only to welcome the special person Ginzo waited for. The witch from that portrait. And today Kanon realized that this was absolutely true. And you also had met her before. When he entered the room, the blonde-haired witch was gazing out the window. Outside, the rain was no longer falling weakly. As she looked out at the beautiful rose garden which had been tended to over several days for today's sake, as she saw the winds and rain ravage it, she was struck by some sentimental feelings. Kanon was not able to tell anything more from her back, which faced him.
お食事の用意をさせていただきます、ベアトリーチェ様。
Kanon went out of his way to call out the witch's name, hoping that she would turn around. He wanted to know. He wanted to know if the witch who tempted him and Shannon in the past had really appeared again. When he did, the witch whose name had been called laughed, her back still facing him. Holding back her voice, she laughed. Kanon was startled. It was almost as though she had read his mind and knew that he called out to her, hoping to make her turn around.
良い匂いだな。どうやらクラウスは良い料理人を入れたと見える。
はい。近年入ったゴーダという料理人です。
料理の腕が良きことは何にも勝るものよ。美食は人の世で生きる快楽の山中をなす。千年を飽きぬにはこれを欠かさぬが秘訣よ。
Contohnya nasi goreng bawang.
And the witch's eyes met. Then she grinned. Without a doubt. Certainly. This was clearly the witch from that day, Beatrice. The witch that no one but he and Shannon could see in the past finally held a form and had arrived openly as a guest through the entrance hall.
ベアトリーチェ。
久しぶりよの家具のカノン。
お久しぶりでございます。
Kanon tried to remember to be polite to his guests for the time being. But the visit of the suspicious witch made dark clouds start to enshroud his heart, especially considering that today was the family conference.
何をしに現れたのかと気が気でならぬと見える。そうであろう。
Kanon didn't force an answer. The switch probably reads mine. So it's pointless to go to the trouble of saying it out loud. Of course, she could read even his inner resistance. So the witch giggled at Kanon's childish defiance.
金蔵との最後の約束を果たしに来た。
親方様との最後の約束。
わらわは金蔵に山をなす黄金を貸し付け、それを金蔵が放棄するとき、わらわは利子をつけて返却を受けることになっておる。今宵それをもらい受けに来た。
僕には何の話かわかりません。
However, uncertainty began to gather in his heart. Whatever the switch had to say, it couldn't be a good thing.
違いない。魔女の話にろくなものはないぞ。そなたは正しい。されど魔女とハサミは使いようだ。ソロモン王のように偉業を成し遂げる者も時にはおる。最も多くの場合は童話が語るようにろくな目には合わんがな。しかし金蔵も食えぬわらわの利子の取り立てすらも自らの儀式に取り込みおった。わらわをも超えるとてつもない大魔術師か。さもなければ狂気に取りつかれたただの
Mere fool possessed by madness.
面白い。実に面白い。
Omoshiroi. Karan couldn't guess what the witch was muttering and laughing about. All he knew was that anything that made this witch laugh must have the exact opposite meaning for everyone else. And in the back of his mind, the horrifying words the witch had spat at him in the past began to resurface. What? Did you think I'd lend you my powers and ask for nothing in exchange? I'll gladly assist a pair in love. And in exchange, I'll enjoy watching the cruel fate they'll eventually meet. I have never come across a better show, not over the course of 1,000 years. Bong jump!
懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川、黄金鏡を目指す者よ。これを下りて鍵を探せ。
Okay, the witch suddenly began to recite a bizarre poem. It was something he remembered hearing.
それはまさか魔女の碑文。
There was no mistake. It was the epitaph that accompanied the portrait of the witch Ginzo had put on display. The relative had guessed that it referred to the location of the hidden gold, but no one knew what it meant for sure. The witch suddenly began reciting that epitaph.
カノン、家具である貴様なら金蔵から聞いていよう。すべてを黄金鏡へ返す日がやってきたのだ。喜ぶがいい。お前の恥辱にまみれた家具の日々がようやく終わる時がやってきたのだ。お前はそれをずっと望んできたはず。自らに存在価値を持たぬ家具にとって、ただ存在するだけの日々は苦痛に他ならない。魂ある者にとって、写しよは固執すべきものだが、亡き者にとって写しよは苦害でしかないからの。
That I'm 14 and this is the complicated expressions flitted across Kanon's face. This was the day of release that Kanon had been looking forward to. However, the coming of this day had been mercilessly sudden. And for some reason, he didn't like that hateful tone used by this witch as she informed him of the coming of this long-awaited day of rest.
What the fuck are you talking? What am I walking? Coming. Guys of the coming.
Aku jeleknya itu pas nge-postnya pas him of the coming of the show itu deh. Jelek banget postnya ini. Karan couldn't even decide what emotion he should be feeling.
なぜに喜ばぬ？それともうつしよに何かの未練があるというのか？家具の分際で。
未練などない。僕は家具だから。
貴様は実に模範的な家具だな。よいよい。しかし何の未練もないとはつくづく面白みのない。
Nggak seru nih.
未練こそがお前の快楽だというのか。
その通り。1000年も生きると大抵の魔女は生き飽きる。わらわは退屈から逃れるために人間たちの運命にブランデーや果実を練り込みケーキのように焼き上げるのだ。オーブンの中で苛烈な運命に踊る人間たちのなんと面白きこと。わらわはこの方面にかけてはちと知られていてな。わらわの料理の腕を見に時には遠方から珍客が見物に来ることすらあるくらいよ。言っても家具ごときには理解できぬか。
Nan couldn't understand what the witch was saying. However, he fully realized that this was a terrifying being who treated the fate of human as a show, enjoying it whenever some harm befell them. However, furniture has no soul or life, much less a fate. Pitiful furniture does nothing but serve until the day they are released from the real world. The furniture like that, the witch who had come to release them from everything, was a being to be received with overflowing affection. Even though the day Kanan should have been waiting impatiently for had come, he was confused by his own inability to accept it easily. Why was it? The face of Shannon, the person he loved as a sister, rose to his mind. And for some reason, Jessica's face did too. Kanan bit his lower lip enough that it hurt. Thinking about Jessica like there was something furniture must never do. Even though he thought he knew that, even though he complained about Shannon's relationship, why was it that Jessica rose into his mind at a time like this? He felt a little shameful at his own naivety. And to forget about Jessica, he turned his thought to Shannon. Shannon is also furniture. She has no reason not to rejoice at the coming of the day when all will return to nothingness. But Shannon, though her relationship with George has experienced an emotion forbidden to furniture, even though she isn't qualified to be bonded with him, she's still trapped in a dream that she isn't allowed to have. Will Shannon be able to joyfully accept this development? No, she won't. Shannon still has lingering regrets. Those will probably become a great source of pain and torture for her. And those lingering regrets were planted by none other than this witch. Why? Because that would be more interesting, nothing more.
シャノンは待ちわびていたはずの日に知ってはならない感情を持ち、とても辛い思いを強いられるだろう。僕たち家具を解放する日を手土産に訪れてくれたあなたに感謝する。そしてシャノンにその日を受け入れがたくしたお前を憎む。
お前もシャノン同様に未練に苦しませてやりたかったぞ。 しかしお前は愚直に家具であり続け、わらわに籠絡されることもなかった。しかし、シャノンを慕いすぎたようだな。
だな。
シャノンの未練がそなたの未練となる。わらわを殺したくば殺してみるがよい。金蔵の家具ならばその程度の力は持っていよう。しかしわらわを殺せば家具どもに安息の日は永遠に訪れぬぞ。そなたにそれが耐えられるのか。
Kalau aku spike gaming aku bunuh sih.
わらわによる解放を本当に拒むことができるのか。ひざまずけ。
何を。
ひざまずき、わらわの靴に口づけをするがよい。さもなくばわらわはこの場を立ち去ろうぞ。帰りて永遠に姿を現わさぬ。のう、カノン。黄金鏡の扉が開かれれば、そなたの苦難に満ちた家具の生は終わろう。望むならば人間としての生を与えてもよい。さすればもはやジェシカとは対等。貴様も知りたいはずだ。恋の味が。隠そうとも知っておるぞ。
This is supposed to be your enemy. Yeah, what the fuck, bro?
Sorry, man.
甘き恋の沼にて溺れるシャノンを見て、そなたは羨ましがっている。恋の味を知りたくてうずうずしておるのよ。
Sitting on the couch.
Real. Observing.
やめろ。やめろ。僕を再び籠絡するつもりか。僕はお前を楽しませるためのおもちゃになり果てたりしない。
ほう、ならばシャノンで満足するとしよう。まいた種はそなただけではないのでな。時には実を結ばぬ果実もある。鍵を手にせし者は以下に従いて黄金鏡へ旅立つべし。第一の番に鍵の選びし6人を生贄に捧げよ。第二の番に残されし者は寄り添う2人を引き
Berarti sekarang yang those who are close-nya Shannon sama George meninggal. The witch recited the epitaph again. It was so sudden and diverged so strongly from the current topic. However, the challenging smile made it seem almost as though she was using that epitaph as a threat against Canon.
わからぬか。
For the ceremony of the epitaph to succeed, as the second twilight, two who are close must be offered as sacrifices.
寄り添う2人は誰でもよい。
誰でもよい。
夫婦でもよいし、恋人同士でもよい。誰を選ぶかは儀式のルールにのっとり、わらわが気まぐれに決めてよいことになっている。今のシャノンならこれほどふさわしい第二の番の生贄もないとは思わぬか。
卑劣な。
Canon realized something. Until today, he thought he'd given up everything else and lived as furniture, acting like furniture. But in reality, that wasn't true. He loved Shannon too dearly. Therefore, when Shannon was in pain, Canon shared it too. If only Shannon continued to live as furniture, indifferently like Canon, without any regrets in this world, he wouldn't have had to be in so much pain. The witch planned to toy with Shannon, who had known the taste of love. No, whom she had taught the taste of love, as she killed her. She wouldn't be welcomed into the Golden Land and granted a compassionate release. Instead, if the witch had her way, she'd be used as a sacrifice, subjected to the utmost of torture and pain, and forcibly turned into a human foundation for this evil ceremony. And this witch would probably make Shannon meet this horrible fate for no reason other than it was amusing to her. Furthermore, she was threatening to do this so that she could make Kanon, who had never submitted to the witch, finally give in. It was that simple. In the end, though, he had tried to resist the witch and avoid pleasing her. He had only made things more amusing for her. After all, he was furniture, not a toy. They were nothing but toys meant only to distract her from her boredom.
どうするカノン。ひざまずけばシャノンを生贄に選ぶことを控えんこともないぞ。お前のような玩具を一度屈服させてみたかった。
If evil were hot. Without even a fragment of elegance, the witch sneered at Kanon and laughed indecently. That's right, she had predicted Kanon's submission even before he made that decision himself. Kanon chose to get down on both knees in front of the witch. It didn't matter what happened to himself. However, the one thing he couldn't bear to see was Shannon, who had given him his only reason to live during his days as furniture, being toyed like this. That was why kissing the shoes of the witch was an easy oath for Kanon to make. When his quivering lips actually touched the witch's shoe, Beatrice let a look of ecstasy rise to her face, then laughed with a voice filled to bursting. At that moment, the witch, who had grown bored of life after 1,000 years, had completely filled with the evil emotion that she lived for. When lunch ended, the relatives moved to the parlor. Rosa had bought a high-class brand of black tea from a famous store in Ginza. That had been served, and the parlor was filled with a pleasant aroma. Since the children were there too, the adults tried to interact like normal relatives on the surface, talking peacefully about recent events and how their children were growing up. It had started raining, so the children couldn't do anything but sit here like this, watching TV, unable to go outside. Maria was apparently a TV kid, and she kept watching a boring daytime program without getting bored, giggling all by herself. At first, Batra joined in, seeming to deepen his relationship with Maria. But he had gotten But he had gotten up early that morning and was gradually hit by the wave of drowsiness.
おや、大きなあくびだね。朝がずいぶん早かったんじゃないのかい？
ま、そんなとこだよ。緊張が解けて、雨の音を聞いてるうちに眠くなってきちまった。
Aku juga ngantuk gara-gara lah hujannya aja.
あんだけ態度でかそうにしてて緊張なんてしてたのかよ。
一応 俺なりにはな。
Batra gave another great yawn and slowly lay down on the sofa. He really did look tired. George and the other had tried talking to him, thinking it was a sign of boredom, but when they realized he really was sleepy, they decided to let him be.
おやおや、食事の後にすぐ横になると、サバになると申しますよ。
冗談よせやい。ゴーダさん、今夜は子牛のステーキだって言ってたぜ。サバのステーキになっちまう。
熊沢さん、こいつ本当に眠いらしい。毛布を持ってきてあげてくれないかな。
さあ、どうぞ。
Kumasawa brought a blanket over from the shelf. The large parlor wasn't cold, but the air had gotten a little chilly. So when Batra took the blanket, he immediately wrapped himself up like a turtle.
本当に眠かったんだね。何時かに起きる？起こしてあげるよ。
あ、いや、特に希望は。なんか用があったら起こしてくれりゃいいし、なんにもねえんならずっと眠らせてくれりゃいいぜ。おやすみ。
Beneran tidur sampai besok aja, terus bangun-bangun meninggal nama orang.
寝ちゃうの？お昼寝。
To be fair, dari dialognya nggak ngedescribein Butler sebagai orang ketiga, bukan orang pertama.
Tadi sempat orang pertama.
Nggak,
sempet.
Di sini nih.
Iya, di sini ada ketiga.
こらマリア、バトラは眠いんだから放っておいてあげなきゃ。熊沢さん、もう一枚毛布をもらえるかな。
It was doubtful whether Maria really wanted to take a nap. She probably saw Butler wrapped up in a blanket and wanted to do the same. When she received the blanket from Kumasawa, she joyfully wrapped herself up in it and set up a camp again in front of the TV.
せっかく6年ぶりにいとこがみんな揃ったってのによ。
Semuanya
今
bobo.
回の親族会議の主賓だって自覚全然ねえな。
聞こえてるぞ。のんびり昼飯を食って、しかも外は台風で雨。何もすることがねえってことはつまり、俺の出番じゃねえってことさ。
それはどうかな。何も起こらないから何もしないなんて受け身の姿勢じゃ人生は退屈だよ。
違うぜ。そういう意味じゃない。なんつうのかな。こういう時、俺はこう思うことにしてる。出番じゃねえんだよ。こいつがお芝居だったならさ、俺の出番じゃねえってことなんだよ。だったら舞台袖でおとなしくしてるに限るってわけさ。
自分の人生はいつだって自分が主人公だろ。そんな脇役根性でどうすんだよ。自分から進んで舞台に上がらなきゃ。
そういう意味じゃねえ。今は俺の出番じゃねえって言いたいのさ。悪いな。眠くて思考がめちゃくちゃだ。勘弁してくれ。
Yang gue penasaran tuh Battle-nya actually tahu dia ngeriset atau enggak. Soalnya there's no indication of that so far.
Di awal-awal enggak loh, di awal-awal enggak kelihatan seperti itu.
Tapi dialog ini tuh menunjukkan kalau dia somehow aware gitu, cuman nggak mau ngehintin ke yang lain gitu.
眠くてなんだか尻滅裂なことを言ってるね。
Now you are spouting nonsense.
もうそっとしてあげようよ。
私は聞き捨てならねえぜ。自分の人生はいつだって自分が主人公だよ。ちょっとそのあたり本格的にバトラーと議論したいけどな。
寝ぼけてるだけだよ。深く考えちゃダメさ。
なんかさ、自分は主役になれないから舞台に上がりたくないみたいな根性、なぜだかすっげえうぜえって思って。
With distant eyes, Jessica gazed out the window at the grey rose garden obscured by rain. When she put her forehead up against the glass, the pleasantly cool sensation seemed to chase away memories she was trying to forget.
まだ君の出番じゃなかったってことなのかい。じゃあいつ君は舞台に上がるんだよ。
Mari kita cari itu po, tempat yang tepat untuk wrap up. In that case, who the heck is the main character on the stage? Makanya cari gantungnya di mana.
Oh, literally perfect timing. Oh, literally perfect timing. Literally perfect timing.
もうやりたい放題じゃねえかよ。
Oh iya, dia tahu, Jir. Dia kalau tidur kesini ya, Jir. Kan
なんだこりゃよ。めちゃくちゃじゃねえか。
そなたがわらわを否定する根拠とする18人だの19人だのという理論が実に滑稽だったのでな。
Bisa aja orang sebenarnya bukan Beatrice gitu loh. That's my point from the first fucking episode, man.
差し手を変えてみたまでよ。そなたがわらわを否定する最大の根拠は単にわらわが駒としてゲーム版に並ばなかったからというだけのこと。ならばこうしてクイーンを先に指せばいいだけの話ではないか。初手にてクイーンに道を開けるはチェスの王道ではないか。
ふざけやがって。こんなの認められるわけねえじゃねえかよ。魔女が歩いて玄関からやってきただと。ふざけるじゃねえ。
なんだなんだ。
Nah, lebih cakep baju yang ini Jir daripada baju yang apa suit ini ya.
前回のゲームではそなたに散々自由に手を進めさせたぞ。こたびはわらわがそなたの手に合わせて駒を動かしたに過ぎん。初手にてもう降参か。
くそったれ。ふざけるな。誰が降参なんかするかってんだ。上等な指し手だぜ。好きに進めればいいじゃねえか。なるほどな。まだまだお前の手番は終わってないってわけだ。好きに手を進めりゃいい。今のうちに十分な陣形を築いとけ。俺が必ずしのぐ。必ず詰める。
Terus malah Butler yang mati pertama di
sabun buat anjing. Butler mati pertama.
Iya, kenapa sarta kene?
Itu kenapa awal-awal kita POV-nya di George, soalnya kita yang di sini kita bakal main jadi George.
Ya, cok, ada kedua George party.
この程度じゃ魔女なんて認められるわけがねえぜ。そうさ。さっきマリアのお菓子を魔法で直したように見えたが、実は同じお菓子をもう一つ懐に忍ばせていて、芝居がかった方法ですり替えて、
No, Butler, there's also
魔法で直したみたいに見せただけかもしれない。
Maria has a lot of debt in her bag. You can just get it from her bag and switch it all.
Iya, juga dapat dari Maria aja. Kan Maria satu.
Iya, real anjing. Ya fucking dumb ass Butler.
ああ、そうさ、そうに決まってる。ダメだぞ。全然ダメだぞ。
全然ダメだぞ。
ほほう。ローザは歌詞が蝶に散る瞬間を見たぞ。
知らねえよ。そんなのは幻覚か手品か。さもなきゃ見間違いだろ。大した問題じゃねえ。
説明のつかぬ部分はさまつと切り捨てたか。
Or you know, Beatrice is not real first of all, and when Maria close her eyes out of pity, when Maria close her eyes out of pity, what the fuck is her name again? The mother's name again? Rosa. Switch it out with the one in her bag, you know, out of guilt and pity.
なるほど。それがそなたの受け手であるな。
It's just someone named Beatrice, but she's not a witch, you know.
後ろ宮バトラー。 お前の手番はまだ先だぞ。もうしばらくわらわの手番を進めさせてもらう。まだまだこれからだぞ、魔女の手番は。
Hell yeah. Pecah?
I think this is a good way.
Okay, this is a good stuff.
Good stuff.
Really good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. So we learned that everyone has BPD.
So the entire let's back to the character still first. So this entire wait,
Kiri.
this this entire line and these two character have BPD. Now who also in the line with this character Genji also have BPD. So
why would Genji have BPD all of a sudden?
we can try looking for similarities ya. Kayak ini Nanjo sama Hideyoshi kesamaannya apa? Sama-sama punya kumis. Nanti si George juga kalau tumbuh gede nanti ada kumisnya juga. Eva
punya kumis berarti.
Ya.
Oh ya.
Kalau ini kan emang kesamaannya satu keluarga besar nih, satu garis nih. Apa?
Can
Terus,
it be simply nomor 1 di baris pertama is the first brother line?
No.
The second was the second.
No. Ini baris kelima kan semuanya servant yang pangkatnya sama semua gitu. Kalau ini kan
Okay, you're looking at it horizontally. Let's look at it vertically dari kanan atas. Kita punya Jessica, kita punya George, kita punya Butler, kita punya Maria dan Kumasawa. So Kumasawa is also a descendant from Kinzo.
I would
That's the
say
logic that you're playing right now.
I would say kesamaannya dari sini adalah
Apa? They are all descendant of Kinzo.
mereka semua mencoba menyembunyikan sesuatu di tangan mereka di sprite-nya. Ini menyembunyikan tangan kanan.
Gitu.
Ini ngantongin di tangan kanan, ini ngantongin di tangan kanan, yang ini tangan kanannya ditutupin ke badan, yang ini juga nutupin tangan kanan.
Ini mana?
It's not weird, it's not weird. Enggak, ini tangan kanannya kan ditutupin sama tangan kirinya gitu loh. Ini juga tangan kanan ditutupin sama badan. Yang ini tangan kanannya masukin kantong, ini tangan kanan masukin kantong, ini tangan kanannya ditutupin ke badan.
Tangan kirinya mana? Tangan kirinya mana?
Iya tangan kiri Jessica lebih gak kelihatan sama sekali malah.
Berarti dia nyembunyiin 2 tangan dong.
Ya semuanya menyembunyikan tangan berarti yang paling kanan.
Oke. Coba vertikal kedua. Itu menyembunyikan tangan. Oh,
yang ini enggak. Berarti ada kesamaan.
Gimana tuh?
Berarti ada kesamaan yang lain. Berarti lo harus melihat kesamaan yang lain gitu.
This is ridiculous.
Yang ini semuanya outsider, yang ini bukan main family, ini kesamaannya. Ini kan
fuck you mean bukan main family.
Ya anjir, yang bukan ketua.
Iya. Itu kan berdasarkan rank anjir.
Jadi kanan anak kelimanya.
Blok. Moral of the story, it's hard.
Moral of the story is
apa?
Kalau nggak mau punya anak BPD jangan nikahin, jangan ngewe sama orang yang
wow.
Unless you're into
big words, big words from you, huh?
I
I am only a co-host in the show. I do not share the same opinion as what everybody said. Please do not cancel me. I will be debuting on my own channel in next year. If anything happens to Volpo, please do not quote me on that.
Hintnya bed.
Kenapa ada resurrect tadi?
Hah? Resurrect.
Coba di tips 1. Resurrect.
What?
Let's execute.
Oh.
Buat lihat satu-satu. Coba execute witch-nya.
But you suggested to try and kill me despite being a merry man while your villains and they will reflect back towards you like of a mirror. However, there does exist just one way to kill me. You hold that method in the palm of your hand. So I don't one as mediocre as you could even put. Oh,
Oh, kata Ben.
Kok?
Dia pernah hilang dulu
dia
sebelum
saya
mati.
hilang dulu anjing. Bentar.
Beda sendiri suaranya.
Iya, suaranya kiri nggak tahu apa beda sendiri.
Nggak ada yang beda-beda emang. Beda-beda dikit. Tuh, beda-beda. Oh, kiri sama Jessica sama.
What if ada puzzle yang lo mesti kesini terus lo mesti nge-kill orang-orang tertentu doang di sini.
I don't know, man. It could happen, yeah. But like,
Nah,
where is the clue?
I wouldn't say the game is as meta breaking as that. I don't think so. It's
Where the fuck is the clue? If the clue exists, I don't mind. But where the fuck is the clue?
Pretty sure everyone said that this game is straightforward, tidak ada pilihan atau apa, jadi nggak mungkin ada yang tiba-tiba lo harus bunuh ini terus nanti kebuka sesuatu. Fuck you.
Fuck you. We love that.
Ya udah kalau gitu, terima kasih sudah mampir. Aku
Yo,
juga
yo.
ngantuk gara-gara suara deg hujan tadi, not gonna lie.
I know, right?
Kalau begitu sampai jumpa di next Saturday.
Weekend.
Bye bye.
Jane.